Let's record for the YouTube audience in the future. I haven't even uploaded the last week's stream onto YouTube yet. But we're gonna chronicle it all on YouTube. I think I'm like 8 weeks in to my ban, so I got like a month left. But yeah, Israel stuff, propaganda everywhere, finger pointing for the hospital bombing. Who done it? Who done it? A lot of that going on. We got the cannon building insurrection. Insurrection. Republicans playing the same game the Democrats playing, using words to control the narrative and probably use it to oust Biden or something like that. The insurrection at the cannon building. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about, was it pro Palestine? Was it pro Israel? What was that? I have no idea what it was. Was it a psyop? I think it was a psyop. I think they're all a psyop. But then, last but not least, in the main segment, we'll talk about new information regarding the George Floyd case and Derek Chauvin. Derek Chauvin in jail for, I thought it was 22 years, but I heard somebody say 40 years. Maybe they were wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but it's a long time. Derek Chauvin going to be in jail for a long time. We'll talk about that. New evidence in the George Floyd case. This has nothing to do with the George Floyd case, but it does have things to do with the George Floyd case. New information that we've always known from the beginning if you were paying any attention, but the majority of people slowly followed the narrative, followed the propaganda, and came to the same conclusion, which is a lie, that George Floyd was not murdered. He did, in fact, die from a drug overdose. And if you didn't know that by now, then you're not paying enough attention. But we'll talk about that. New stuff coming from that. We'll look at breaking news. We got memes. We got reels. We got rapid fire news. Lots of black violence. We'll go from George Floyd into Martin Luther King being a communist, black violence, and also we got a based black person. We got a based black. I want to show both sides. Both sides. We're going to see a based black preacher, and we're going to see some black excellence or degeneracy. Actually, it's really degenerate, the video that I'm going to play, but we got a lot of stuff coming up. Britney's abortion. If you didn't know, Britney Spears got an abortion. Shocking revelation. And then we'll end the show with more spooky stories. It's still Halloween. We got more spooky stories coming. And the spooky stories, we're gonna do some Bible thumping with spooky ghost and zombie stories from the Bible. Ghosts and zombies. Are ghosts and zombies biblical? Are they biblical? What is it? We'll talk about that. And then we'll look at some Reddit creepypasta. I don't really have a whole lot of material for tonight. So we could do Discord calls. If anybody wants to call in on the Discord, let me know in the chat. Let me know in the Discord. And we could slide you up in there. And we can see what's up. But that's the idea for the show. Let's get on with it. Do I have a cool sound effect? Let's get on with it. China. Okay. What do we got? Let me get my articles. It's going to be a chillaxed show tonight. So first, let's talk about this hospital. Earlier in the week, I believe it was Tuesday, a hospital was bombed. They said it was a Christian hospital. They said Israel did it. They said Hamas did it. It was a rogue bomb that went off target. All kinds of stuff, all kinds of finger pointing. Let's watch this clip from CNN, see what they're telling us about it, when it first happened. Get me kind of queued up on what we're going to be talking about here. I've been thinking about, I haven't had my mind on the show because I've been thinking about tomorrow is actually my first day at UPS. So it was supposed to be last week. They pushed the orientation back a week because my background check hadn't come in yet. They said, and that's not like a scary thing or anything. They said it could take up to 2 weeks and they got to get the background check before I can start working. I'm not worried that I got a shady background, that's for sure, but you know, they hire anybody there. So I'm not worried about that. What's up, Seesaw? Seesawlism. Hola. Been thinking about that, and then I got another story that today kept my mind occupied. So I've always wanted to write a book. One day I'm gonna write a book. My dad wrote a book. My father wrote a book, got it published, knows how to do all that stuff. So I want to write a book. And here's a story, little a little story before we get into the show. When I was a kid, I watched a lot of horror movies and I read a lot of scary books, Goosebumps from R.L. Stine and Stephen King books when I was real young. And it helped me with my reading skills, my reading comprehension skills, IQ, things like that. Helped me with that. But it also made me a little weird in the head. So I had a lot of nightmares when I was little until one day I decided, and I'm like, shoot, what grade was this in? I think this was in third grade, second or third grade. I don't know how old you are at that time, but it was either in second or I think it was second grade. I was at Northside Christian Academy, Miss Braswell's class. So it was second grade. Second grade, I was having a lot of nightmares because I watched a lot of horror movies. Probably shouldn't have been doing that, but I was. And it's Halloween, so spooky. So I had a nightmare about a sewer. It was like Jason Voorhees, but he lived in the sewer. And I had a nightmare about it. And he was a sewer dweller. He was a sewer dweller, and he dwelled in the sewers. And he'd go around killing people in New York. I think I probably just watched Jason Goes to Manhattan or something like that. But anyway, it was like a sewer being, and he killed people. Well, anyway, I had that nightmare. I woke up from it, and I jotted down on a notepad what the basis of the dream was. And then I said, I'm going to write a story about this. I'm going to write this as a book, because I read a lot, and I read a lot of Stephen King and Dean Koontz and R.L. Stine, Fear Street and Goosebumps and stuff. Started getting into the Stephen King when I was in like third grade and later, but I had probably read Carrie at this point and things like that. Easy books from Stephen King, Pet Sematary. Anyway, so I said, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a short story about this dream that I had. And I wrote it. I think I filled a whole composition notebook. I wrote like probably, handwriting from a third grader, second grader in a composition notebook. If it was in printed form, it'd probably only be like 100-page book. But I wrote it and I didn't even have an ending. That's the problem with dreams. And we'll get to this, but you never get the end. If it's a really good, scary dream, you never get the ending. You got to come up with your own ending. So anyway, I wrote it down. And then after that point, I stopped having nightmares. And I had the common nightmares like losing your teeth, falling, all those common nightmares that you just wake up from. And it's like, okay, I was falling down. And right before I hit the ground, I woke up going, yeah, I get it. Okay, I had the teeth falling out dream. I woke up. I used to have that dream a lot, and then my teeth started falling out, and then I got them fixed, and I haven't had that dream since. I'm still missing a tooth, but I don't have the teeth falling out dream anymore. I've read the teeth falling out dream is a sign of you're afraid of unacceptance. You're afraid of not being accepted. But I think maybe I did have that when I was younger, and I overcame that. Maybe that's why I don't have that dream anymore, because now I like not being accepted. I prefer to not be accepted. But when I was younger, I wanted to be the popular kid and all that. But anyway, I digress. So, dreams. The falling dream, I don't know. But anyway, it's crazy nightmares where you have like killers and stuff and scary stuff in your nightmares. I stopped having those when I wrote down my nightmare. And didn't really, and then I got into like messy stuff like drugs and stuff later in life, and I stopped having dreams altogether. Now I'm starting to have dreams again, not smoking pot all the time, not doing a bunch of drugs, and I'm having dreams again for the past couple years. And I had a dream the other night, and I've always wanted to write a book, and I did it when I was a kid. And I have a skill for writing, like in school, English class, creative writing class, critical thinking class. Those were always my best classes. Not great at math. I'm not a huge math guy. Science, I was good in science because science is just reading comprehension. If you can read the stuff and repeat it back, then you're good at science. Same with history. History, it just depends on if you have an interesting teacher or a boring teacher. If you have a boring teacher in history class, a bad teacher, then history sucks. But if you have a good, entertaining teacher that can make it fun for you, then history is more reading comprehension. That's all school comes down to, is math and reading comprehension. And anyway, so I wanted to write a book. I had a dream last night. I woke up from my dream and I was like, this was a crazy dream. Should I tell the story of the dream now? Anyway, the point of the story is I want to write a book about this dream. But I still don't have an ending. I have to come up with an ending. But maybe later in the show, I'll tell you the plot of the book. I want to write it in book form and I want to write it in script form because I see everybody got a book. Everybody got a book, and I feel like I can write better than them. So if you got a book and you talk and I see the way you think, and I'm not picking on anybody specifically. I'm talking about everybody got a book. Everybody got a book. I think I could write a more entertaining book. So I want to write a book about this dream. I think I'll save the dream story for later in the show, but I'll tell you the plot, and then we got to come up with the ending. I need an ending for the story. But that'll be the little cliffhanger for later in the show. Let's get on to the news. CNN with reports from Israel after the hospital bombing.
The deadly blast in Gaza hit a hospital, killing hundreds. This is according to Palestinian officials. We do know a lot of people are dead. Hundreds of people know yet who had sought refuge. That is the reality.
Biden went to Israel. We got Biden's response coming up.
Mass anti-Israel protests across the Middle East today.
So a hospital was bombed. Mass protests, more protests. But there's been a lot of speculation, a lot of skepticism about which side this bombing came from. A lot of finger pointing. That's what we jump right to the finger pointing. And one thing I want people to know is that propaganda goes both ways. So I'm seeing a lot of people who they see all this constant propaganda from the left towards the right, and they say, no, we don't need to send money to Ukraine because all those pictures, the ghost of Kiev, the army military woman, which she's holding an airsoft rifle and she's a professional airsoft player, that's all propaganda. We don't need to. But as soon as Israel is in a conflict, all this propaganda comes out about that. And I think I'm going to go with my hot take here is going to be there's nothing wrong with propaganda. I'm going to do the same thing with propaganda that I do with indoctrination. There's nothing wrong with indoctrination. Indoctrination is not inherently good or evil. Propaganda is not inherently good or evil. There's always propaganda. Everything is propaganda. Everything is wanting to express their idea. I'm giving you propaganda right now. This is me doing a show to express my beliefs to you and hopefully articulate them in a way that you will see what I'm saying and maybe start to believe it. Maybe start to think the way I think, which I believe would lead to a better result. If we had more Christianity and more, real conservatism, not this neocon stuff, but real conservatism, conserving traditional Christian American values. This is my propaganda, right? I'm doing propaganda. It's not the indoctrination that's the problem. It's not the propaganda that's the problem. It's the message. If the message is evil, it's evil. If the message is good, we should get that propaganda. But what we're seeing with all this Israel stuff, this is not good propaganda. We'll talk about the Cannon building. We'll talk about the ceasefire protests. Don't get me wrong. I am not pro ceasefire protest. Israel has every right to defend their home, their turf. Hamas has every right to be mad if Israel's been doing messed up stuff to them and to attack Israel and want to defend their turf or take their land. Like, that's between them. My whole point is that's between them. They both have their reasons. If they believe their reasons are justified, they can do that in their country. That's fine. maybe one side is worse than the other. Maybe both sides are wrong. Maybe both sides are right. Maybe one's right, one's wrong. But it's a conflict between them. And I'm okay with saying ceasefire for America. America doesn't need to be firing any shots in this war. We don't need to be even getting involved in it. But we're gonna send them money, and they're gonna push propaganda to get the right to act the same way the left did for Ukraine. They're gonna get the right to act the same way for Israel. They're gonna show you the dead babies. They're gonna, because they know the right hates dead babies. We don't like seeing dead babies. We don't like hearing about babies being killed. We're against abortion. We're pro-life, quote unquote. I don't even like that term pro-life, but I'm anti-abortion. I'm anti-killing babies. But they're going to use the babies to pull on the heartstrings of the right so that we'll support Israel, you know? And then eventually the same thing's going to happen with Taiwan. And they're going to get people to pick sides over giving money and giving troops to Taiwan. What does this lead to? This leads to war. What does war lead to? War leads to Biden staying in office. During war times, we won't be able to remove the incumbent. And I think that's what they want. I think they want people to die. I think they want to draft. We'll talk about the draft later in the show. We had a fun little discussion on Discord about women being drafted. And we'll talk about that. That's a hot topic right now. Whether you're talking about women being drafted or the draft in general, why that would harm America or it could help America. I've been thinking about it. And, you know, maybe all the Gen Zs getting wiped off of the face of America, maybe that's not a problem. Maybe there's some benefits to that. So we'll talk about all that later in the show. But let's focus on this hospital. A day after a deadly blast tore through Al-Ahli Baptist Hospital in Gaza, sparked protests across the region. The United States has released its own assessment of what caused the devastation. Israel has laid out evidence that it said shows a misfire by militant group Islamic Jihad caused the blast. And U.S. President Joe Biden on Wednesday backed that explanation. Citing U.S. intelligence, the spokesperson for the National Security Council later said that analysis of overhead imagery, intercepts, and open source information suggests that Israel is not responsible. Palestinian officials and several Arab leaders nevertheless accuse Israel of hitting the hospital and its ongoing airstrikes in Gaza. Islamic Jihad and a rival group of Hamas has denied responsibility. We got an image here. Let's watch the video of Biden's response. What's up, Dean? What's your thoughts on the Safety Act deleting cash bail? By the way, how you doing, man? Maybe I'll touch on that a little later when we talk about blacks. I'm against the First Step Act. I'm against the Safety Act. I think the best thing Biden ever did was the 94 crime bill. I think cracking down harder on crime is a better idea. But at the same time, I also don't think taxpayer dollars should be funding all these people to stay in prison forever. So instead, we need to revamp the system entirely and have banishment. Just build a wall and just kick you out of the country. You're gone. Bye. We're not going to pay taxes to house you and feed you and take care of you. Or another option is you put the prisoners to work. I'm very pro chain gang. Florida chain gang Charlie. I was with him till he backstabbed and basically became a Democrat. But I'm pro chain gang. If we can put them to work, save money from taxes by letting them build the roads, and then just pay taxes to one or the other. Either you're paying taxes for the prisons or you're paying taxes for the roads. How about we just pay taxes for the prisons, let them fix the roads, let them take care of the infrastructure building and rebuilding and the construction and stuff, and then maybe we actually rehabilitate some of them. We teach them a useful skill. We get them a job, you know. Maybe the only way to get into road paving is you have to be in prison. And then the prisoners, once they get out, they get a higher position in the road crews, which encourages them to stay out and helps actually rehabilitate criminals. That's what I think. And then like murderers and rapists and stuff like that, we just banish them. Banished. You're gone. You're out of the country. Over the wall to the wolves you go. But let's play this clip of Biden reacting to this hospital bombing in epic fashion, as usual for Biden.
I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not
The other
you.
team.
But there's a lot of people
Not
out
you,
there
that's
who are not
Netanyahu.
sure. So we got to overcome a lot of things. And it also means encouraging life-saving.
It was done by the other team.
Capacity to help the Palestinians who are innocent, caught in the middle of this. Israel,
That's supposed
as
to
they
fade
respond
in
to
and
these
out.
attacks, it seems to me that have to continue to ensure that you have what you need to defend yourselves. And we're going to make sure that occurs, as you know. And we have to also bear in mind that Hamas does not represent all the Palestinian people. And it has brought them only suffering. It's deeply saddened and outraged.
So at first I would have kind of agreed with that last point. Hamas does not apply to all the Palestinian people. I still have not finished reading the Quran, but I've learned that they say if you don't read Arabic, then you can't read the Quran because you're going to get a bad interpretation. But I mean, you could say the same thing about the Bible. If you don't have an interlinear Bible and you can break down the Hebrew and the Arabic and the Aramaic and do all the historicity and all that stuff, if you don't do that, then maybe you're not properly interpreting what it says in the Bible because your translation, whatever translation you have, may have twisted the message or changed some words to kind of throw people off. And that's all by design. Like the Bible says that will happen. That's what Satan does. So I haven't fully read the Quran, but I'm going to read it eventually one of these days. I'm just busy. I'm slowly reading it. And then I'll give you a breakdown of a critical interpretation of the Quran from a Christian who actually read the Quran. And I'll tell you my thoughts. So far, I'm in the first half of it, and it seems like a peaceful book. But I hear that the second half, later in Muhammad's life, he got a little crazier, and that's when it gets more aggressive. So I won't really fully know until I get to the end. But my point is, it's not just Hamas. And I'm not saying all Muslims are evil, but I'm not saying all Jews are evil or all Jews are good or one or the other. I don't even think Christians are good. No man is good, but only God is good. So, but the point is, it is a battle between Muslims and Jews. That's what it is. It's an eternal battle between Muslims and Jews. And Christians used to be involved in that battle. Then we kind of took more the side of peace. We made our own land here in America, and we kind of got out of that. But they still hate us. They both still hate us. So, and now we fund their wars. It almost makes me want to be pro-war for them. Let's fund the war so they can wipe each other out. Like, but no, I don't like that idea. Like, we're supposed to be peaceful people that carry a sword in case somebody attacks us. You know, Jesus said, "Sell your garment and buy a sword." He wasn't saying sell your garment and buy a sword so you could go play police officer to the whole world. He was saying sell your garment and buy a sword because they're going to be coming after you. And when they come after you, you need to defend yourself. So if they show up on our border, which they are, then I'm down for going to war with that. But I ain't trying to draft soldiers because a Christian hospital got bombed and 40 babies got their heads cut off. I'm not trying to send American boys over to die. Well, now it'd be American women and who knows what. Everybody getting sent over there. Gen Z's gonna get wiped off the map. Y'all are done for. If we do a draft, and I've always said, man, I'm getting into the draft stuff. They tie together, so I should have just put the draft stuff in this segment. But if we do a draft, if we go to war and we do a draft, the Gen Zers aren't going to make it. They aren't going to make it. They ain't strong enough. It's going to be a problem. There's plus sides to that. We lose all this woke crap. And we realize the mistake we made and we learn from it. Maybe. But then there's a lot of downsides to that too. I heard a caller on Nick's stream today talking about if they send all the men over to the war and we have all these immigrants, illegal immigrants coming over, the women are going to get with those men. And it was like, well, are you talking about Nick was like, are you going to be talking about they're going to be cheating on their husbands who are at war with these immigrants? I think a lot of them would do that. Yes. But more than likely, a lot of our boys are going to die. And a lot of other, I don't know, man. Listen, it's crazy. I don't even know where I'm going with this. Like, a lot of people are going to die. A lot of people are going to die. That doesn't help. That doesn't help replacement rates. That doesn't help the population continue to grow. We're at 8 billion. We could sustain 11 billion on Earth easily, and that would naturally plateau at about 11 billion. We're supposed to be fruitful and multiply. We're not supposed to be, I don't know, ruthless and kill a guy. We're not supposed to like wipe everybody off the face of the earth. That's the globalist plan. That's the population reduction. I'm against that. I want us to have more babies. I want families, strong families, people to make babies. All religions, all nations, just do it in your own place. Muslims, make your babies in your Muslim countries. Jews, make your babies in your Jewish countries. Commies in China, go ahead, do your thing. Stop killing babies. Stop saying you're only allowed to have one boy. That's crazy. Quit playing God. We just need to make babies. The earth will be fine. The climate change people are idiots, and we're going to be fine. We can sustain this population and much more easily. We don't need to be going to wars, killing off people because the globalists want to reduce the population by 30% or by 70% by 2025 at the latest. You know, I'm not pro Agenda 2020 or 2030, whatever the heck it's called. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I can't go to the field. I'm a spoiled housewife with a dishwasher and a Roomba. All right. So I got into the draft stuff early because all I'm seeing is this conflict, and it's getting crazier. We're going to be on a war with three fronts. We're going to be at war with China, Russia, and the Middle East. Our three biggest enemies. When I was down in Florida, when my dad passed away, I hung out with my uncle, and he was in the Air Force. He retired from the Air Force with full whatever. I don't know all the stuff, but he was there for like 30 or 40 years, however it takes to retire from the Air Force. He was there the full time. He shook like Bill Clinton's hand, George Bush's hand. I don't know if he ever got to shake Trump's hand, but he shook Bill Clinton's hand. He said he had to wash his hand afterwards because he was worried about catching a disease. But anyway, I asked him when I was hanging out with him when I was down in Florida, we were fishing. And I was like, so who, like, I know the narrative, but according to you, who is the biggest threat to America? Like, don't give me no CNN, no Fox. And he said, it is who you think it is. It's China, Russia, and the Middle East. But he said China is probably the biggest threat. And we're going to be at war. We're going to defend Thailand when China tries to take Thailand. We're going to defend Israel because Hamas is butthurt at Israel, even though they got the best intel in the country, apparently. They got the best weapons system. Let them handle it. Let Israel handle that. Let Taiwan fight China and lose. Let Ukraine fight Russia and lose. Tear it up. I don't care. If we fortify America and we focused our resources that we're sending to every country in the world, we send money to the European countries, we send money to the Scandinavian countries, we send money to Israel. And I hear people talking about a lot of these countries have required military service. You know why they have required military service for 2 years when you're 18 years old? Because nobody dies. Because you go to the military, you sit and you fill a space. And nobody's dying over there. You know why nobody's dying over there? Because America funds your defenses. America's got your back. That's why you can have your civilians go to the military and have a gravy job and get benefits for the rest of their life because of it. They get sent home with a gun. You can have that because America's got your back. But here in America, if we send our boys to war, they die. You're going to be dead. Your wife's going to be sleeping with an illegal immigrant within 6 months after you're dead. That's what's going to happen. So I'm against all this war crap. The hospital, the propaganda from both sides. I'm tired of seeing it. We got a meme later. Daily Wire shared a picture of a burnt baby, and it was a picture from a veterinarian hospital where there was a dog there, and they cropped out the dog and they put a piece of charcoal and said it was a baby. Like, come on now. Come on now. Wake up, people. This is not our war. We have a war to fight here. If we stop funding everybody and we stop sending munitions and soldiers all over the world and we focused on our own country, nobody's going to touch us. Nobody's going to touch us. The reason they can touch us is because they're pushing a bunch of postmodernist, feminist, woke ideology through the schools, through the TikTok, through the social media, through the internet. And we've weakened ourselves by spreading ourselves too thin. If you play chess, you spread your field too thin. You play Risk, you play anything. You spread your field too thin, then you have holes. You cast your net too wide and there's holes in your net. And guess what? Those holes aren't there from natural causes. Those holes aren't there from time and overuse. Those holes are there from Satan stabbing it with a knife. Satan stabbing your net. You're casting a wide net. This actually applies to something else I was thinking about the that guy that I debated with that was talking about how the NIV says rape in Deuteronomy 23, and while every other version translation doesn't say that, whereas I have always thought of the NIV as the more feminist, more softer language, but then you see harder language in certain spots, like in Deuteronomy 23, it uses the word rape, and no other translation uses that word, and it's like, oh, this is Satan. This is what the Bible said would happen, is that the word would be changed and altered, and there would be all these different translations and all these holes in it. They're trying to cast a wider net by using this more accepting language, but some places they use harsher language to twist a narrative. That's a hole in the net, but that hole didn't get there naturally. That's not just a hole from time. That's a hole from Satan stabbing the net. And that's what America's doing right now with our military. We're casting our net wide. We're protecting everybody. We're playing the game too open. We're playing the field too broadly, where we've got to defend everybody. We've got to take care of everybody. We've got to be world police. We got to save China. We got to save Russia. We got to save Israel. We're spreading ourselves too thin. We've got a bunch of
Baba Booey.
We're gonna draft a bunch of
Baba Booey.
They're gonna go there and protect Russia, Ukraine, China. Russia, Ukraine, Thailand, and Israel. Like, no, those boys are gonna die. Those people are gonna die. And yeah, stop eating up the propaganda. If you're gung ho about sending soldiers to Israel, then and you're claiming to be a conservative Christian, then you're wrong. You're just wrong. You're not a bad person. You just fell for the okie doke. You know. Well, we're all bad people, but you know, you could still be a decent person, but you just fell for the okie doke. So, from AP, the Israeli military has not admitted it bombed a Gaza hospital, despite widespread claims online. So they're denying it. So that's just the finger pointing that I was talking about. Claim the Israel Defense Forces confirmed it bombed a hospital in Gaza in a social media post written in Arabic. False. No such post exists on the IDF social media pages, and the military's top Arabic-speaking spokesperson confirmed his office has issued no such statement. The facts, with many questions still lingering. Now remember, you got to take all this with a grain of salt, because this is AP. This is a far left site. You know, maybe the claims are real, maybe they're fake. You know, you can't get too deep into any of this stuff because it could all be a lie. Everything that you see on these websites that I report to you on. I'm just reporting on what they're reporting on. And I'm going to give you my thoughts, and I'm going to tell you, just because I'm reporting on it doesn't mean I believe it. Just so you know, no such post exists. The facts, with many questions still lingering about Tuesday's deadly blast at a hospital in Gaza, social media users are claiming Israel's military has taken responsibility. Many of them are sharing a screenshot of a Facebook post claiming to be from a member of the Israeli Defense Forces Arabic-speaking media relations team. The user's profile image bears the blue and white emblem of the spokesperson's office, which features radio waves atop the Israeli military's traditional symbol of an olive branch wrapped in a sword. The post, written in Arabic, suggests the Jewish nation bombed Al-Aqli Hospital on Tuesday evening because the Gaza City medical facility had lacked supplies and staff. Israeli officials' Facebook post, due to the lack of medical equipment and the lack of medical staff, it was decided to bomb the Baptist hospital in Gaza and give them euthanasia, wrote one user on X, the social media platform formerly known as Twitter. I can't keep doing that. We're either got to call it X or Twitter. I'm not going to keep doing this social media platform formerly known as Twitter crap. We're just going to call it X because it's shorter and easier, or Twitter. One or the other. But I'm not calling it X, the social media platform formerly known as Twitter. Damn, I can't say all that. In a post translating the screenshot, similar posts were also widely shared on TikTok and other social media platforms. Don't get your information from TikTok. It's lies. Don't even watch TikTok. Get off of there. If you see TikTok logo in the bottom corner, turn it off. Stop. Don't look at it. It's fake. It's these people. These people just say stuff on a camera without thinking about it to get clicks and views. And then they make a clickbait title. I know how to do it. I work the system too. I made a short that says Trump is leaving the presidential race. And it got all kinds of views from all these liberals and stuff and DeSantis supporters. And it was Trump saying, I'm going to become a car tow truck driver. Because when these electric cars get put into place, tow truck driver is going to be the best job in the world when they run out of energy. So just watch out for the propaganda. But again, I'm going to say this. Not all propaganda is bad propaganda. If the propaganda is influencing people to believe the right belief or the right idea, then it's good. And it's not even that it's something we should do, it's inevitable. The same thing with indoctrination of children. People always talk about grooming and indoctrination of children like it's a horrible thing. All children are groomed and indoctrinated. The problem, and the conservatives are going to be like, oh, he just said they were groomed. Groomed just means trained to be a certain way. I know when we talk about groomers, we're usually talking about a certain type of people. So you hear the word groomer and you think it's a bad thing. No. If you have two Christian parents raising their child in a Christian home, teaching them good American family values and raising them right, those parents are indoctrinating and grooming that child. And that's amazing. That's great. That's necessary. It's inevitable. It's impossible to not have it happen. It's always going to happen. Kids' minds are sponges. Whatever environment they're raised in, whatever parental values are taught to them, whatever they see as they're growing up, that's what they're going to grow up to be. So all kids are indoctrinated and all kids are groomed and all kids see propaganda everywhere. It's just what information they're taking in and which belief that they're going to follow. Because you could be indoctrinated or you could be groomed into thinking that one thing's okay that's pure evil. Or you could be indoctrinated and groomed and propagandized into believing that the right thing is good, and there's nothing wrong with that. So, and just be aware that the counter narrative is just as much propaganda as the narrative. Both could be wrong. One could be right, one could be wrong, or both could be wrong. Both can't be right. Both can't be correct, but both could be wrong. So maybe you're seeing propaganda from the right saying this and they're wrong. And maybe you're seeing propaganda from the left saying this and they're wrong. And you have to learn to discern things. You have to learn to see things, study to show yourself approved. When you hear something or see something, don't just take it at face value. Don't just take it for granted. You have to do some reading. You're going to have to, nowadays, I guess it's watching videos on YouTube and TikTok and listening to audiobooks. But no, you should probably start reading things. Go back and read something. You want to learn about the conflict between Israel and Hamas? Instead of listening to Ben Shapiro and Daily Wire, go read a book. Go learn something. Go actually look at historians who've wrote about both sides of conflicts. Go read the Bible. Go, I don't know, go actually do some studying for yourself. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to pay anybody. We have the information world at our fingertips. Read both sides, though. Don't just read one side. Don't live in a bubble, because if all you're doing is reading one-sided news all the time and listening to one-sided commentators, then you're going to be in a bubble and it's going to build up animosity in you and you're not going to really understand what's going on. You have to see it from both sides. You have to be able to look at it from both sides and understand both sides of the argument to come to a reasonable conclusion. Otherwise, your conclusion is irrational. You're just going off emotion and you're going wild one way or the other. And that's what I'm seeing a lot of from both the right and the left. This article is not showing for me. It's more about the hospital bomb. Enough of the hospital bomb. Let's move on to this. Let's move on to this protesters take over the Capitol. So we've got an insurrection. The right's calling it an insurrection. Let's see what chat's saying first before I move on. Dean saying a whole bunch of stuff. We'll always have top gross from whatever law. I don't know about that. Jair's points, it makes sense. The jury has more discretion than the judge in most cases, but the jury can be influenced too. There's points that make sense. Judge is just like a figurehead. There's points that make sense. Once they get out, they have something to work with. Oh, you're talking about the prison stuff. Seesaw doesn't want to go to war. War got way too sexual. Okay. Anyway. All right. Let's look at this Capitol cannon building at the Capitol. We had a protest. We had a sit-in. We had an insurrection, whatever you want to call it. All the people on the right, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, they're all calling it an insurrection. And I understand it. I understand why they're saying that. But it's kind of like you're playing the devil's game to beat the excuse me, I'm mumbling. You're playing the devil's game to beat the devil. Like calling this an insurrection, it wasn't an insurrection. Now, the argument will be, well, they called January 6th an insurrection, so we're going to call this an insurrection. I get it. I get what you're getting at here. You're being you're kind of using their words and their arguments against them. I get it. But I think I'm going to stick to my guns that this was at the Cannon Building, the ceasefire. Like, I have conflicting reports here. I have one saying it's a pro-Palestinian protest. I have one saying it's a pro-Israel protest. I've got video showing that it looks like a pro-Israel protest. Video showing that it looks like a pro-Palestinian protest. I'll give my thoughts on all that here shortly once we go through all this. But my point is, neither of them were insurrections. And we can't use their words against them because their words have no meaning. When they call January 6th an insurrection, if we call this an insurrection, we're doing the same thing they do with racism. We're doing the same thing they do with homophobic, transphobic, misogynist. We're taking words that actually have a meaning and we're making them meaningless. Insurrection has a meaning. There is a real insurrection, and I'm not going to say that it maybe shouldn't happen. I think maybe we, I got to be careful. Is that risky? I think I'm okay with that on Rumble. I'll probably have to cut that out of YouTube, though. But you see how it is. But we have not seen an insurrection. The founders had an insurrection. We have not seen an insurrection. The January 6th was not an insurrection. This cannon building thing was not an insurrection. But I see what the Republicans are doing. Let's watch the video from Marjorie Taylor Greene on her YouTube channel. And I got to go take a potty break. It's 5 minutes long. I'll skip through it, but I'm going to take a quick potty break because I forgot to take one before the show. You guys watch this for a second. I will be right back. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene's footage from the Cannon building during the ceasefire.
An insurrection happening.
Pro-Palestine, pro-Israel. I have no idea.
This is the march outside. The pro-Palestinian. This is where the press does all their hits. Of course, they know what they're doing. They always know what they're doing.
So you heard Marjorie Taylor Greene. You heard Marjorie Taylor Greene say that it was a pro-Palestinian protest, right? You hear I've got video from Steven Crowder because he's now got like an on-the-ground reporting team. That's the dream, man, to have a team, to have on-the-ground reporters all over the country, you know, sending you exclusive footage on this stuff. But I hear him twisting the narrative one way. I hear Daily Wire twisting the narrative one way. I hear Marjorie Taylor Greene twisting the narrative the other way. And then I see, well, there's another side of this story. In the same way we do with things like George Floyd, we have to be skeptical of everything that we're being told. And we have to look at both sides. So let me cut this. Let me read the article, and then I'll show you what I'm talking about. Protesters moved to the inside of the Cannon House office building on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday, demanding a ceasefire in Israel-Hamas conflict. Footage of the protests inside the Cannon building has circulated online, with participants heard chanting, "Ceasefire now." In the video shared to X, formerly Twitter, protests can be seen waving banners, with one saying, "Jews say ceasefire now." So, here's what confuses me. In the videos I've seen, the first people who showed up, they were wearing the caps, the small hats. They said Jews for Israel and things like that, or Jews say ceasefire now and things like this. And so the question is, was it Jewish people there? Was it Palestinian people there? Or was it both there? Or how about this? Was it just a bunch of imported protesters who are at the Antifa protests? They're at the BLM protests. They're at the Women's March. They're at all the protests. They're even at like Republic. They'll show up at the Stop the Steal protests. These people get bussed around on buses. They get paid. They know they're going to be arrested. They organize better than the right does. These are lefties. These are Antifa types who just show up at all these things to cause turmoil. They show up at the January 6th protest to start stuff. Hold on. I'm getting distracted. Getting distracted by Dean talking a bunch, saying a bunch of stuff. I'm trying to read it. If you play the devil's game to beat the devil, then the devil wins. Yes. So, look at this article from Fox. I find this interesting. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators take over House building, throwing Capitol security into question. Now, was the Capitol stormed? Despite the flood on social media, speculation and theories, the short answer is no. After speaking with the U.S. Capitol Police, Fox 5 has learned that the answer is both quite ordinary, given that officers were assaulted, eye-opening. So they assaulted officers, people got hurt. At first, I thought nobody got arrested. Over 300 people were arrested. Now, does that mean it was an insurrection? No, that just means these people were They knew they were going to get arrested. They were meant to be arrested, and they got arrested. Are they going to get 22 years like the people in the Capitol? Probably not. We shall see. We shall see. In a statement of Fox 5, U.S. Capitol Police said the protesters legally entered the building, even standing in a looser form of a single-file line at the public entrance. Everyone was screened normally during this process. So we see the opposite narrative, though, here as with January 6th. So January 6th, we saw them coming in peacefully. We saw them being waved in. We saw them walking through the stanchions. We saw them shouting messages through megaphones like, stay peaceful, stay peaceful. We're here to protest. We're not here to be violent, right? We only saw 2 unarmed white women get killed by black officers. That's all the violence we saw. And then allegedly some cops weeks later might have offed themselves. But the only violence we saw was 2 unarmed white women killed by black officers. That's the only violence we saw. In this, the violence we see, but in this, they're telling us the opposite narrative. They're telling us, instead of saying they came in crazy, but what we saw was them coming in peacefully, what we see here is them coming in violently. And then the narrative is, no, they came in peacefully. It was all legit. It was all fine. These people aren't going to go to jail for 22 years. So the headline says it's pro-Palestinian supporters. When you look at this picture, I wish I could blow up this picture. Let me see. Save image as pictures. 1 second. You can see what I'm doing. Hold on. I want to blow up this picture. The question is, are these people faking? Are these Antifa members faking like they're Jewish? That's what I'm thinking. But the headline says pro-Palestine supporters. But when we look at the image here, they're all wearing Jewish garb. They got yarmulkes on. They have signs saying, we support Israel and things like, or not we support Israel, but Jews for ceasefire. Let's read some of these signs. Philly Jews say never again. Jews say ceasefire now. And if you look through this crowd, you guys can't see it as good as I can, but I've looked through this picture, and a lot of them are wearing yarmulkes. This girl's wearing like a Jewish colored shawl, but they're wearing all black like Antifa. Looks like, and they're all wearing masks. Looks like a bunch of little Antifa kids pretending to be Jewish saying ceasefire now. So I think this whole thing's a psyop. It gets Republicans mad saying, look at the insurrection they did. We got to lock them up like they locked up the January 6th people. The government is encouraging this stuff. The same way it happened in Brazil, the same way it happened in Guatemala. The government is encouraging the people to lash out so they can arrest people and make examples of those people. Or these people are all going to get let off. I don't know how it's going to go. It's crazy. Like, I don't even know what to think of all this stuff yet. My brain is going 1,000 different ways because it's like, we can't believe anything. We can't believe anything we're told. And Crowder got some good on the ground reporting on it, showing that these people were bussed in, showing that these people were laughing about a planned insurrection. So let's watch his clip. His on-the-ground reporting.
No, as a Palestinian American, is also somebody of Muslim faith.
This is Rashida Tlaib talking about this outside. So, again, is it pro-Palestine or pro-Jew? Because when the ones who were inside were all wearing yarmulkes and Jewish garb, claiming to be Jewish people. But yet, outside, they're pro-Palestine, like, I don't even know what was happening here. Did they team up together to go into the Capitol? Or is it all psyop? Was it all fake? And it's just supposed to get us riled up. I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not going to forget this. And I think a lot of people are not going to forget this. And it's not a threat. It isn't. They think we're joking.
It's not a threat. They think we're joking. We're really going to do this. So here's a Muslim-looking guy
suicide?
trying to jump over a wall.
I said let him go, officer.
Yeah.
Let nature take its course.
So now that looks like an angry Muslim guy attacking the allegedly Jewish pro-Palestinian ceasefire protesters inside the Cannon building. And then this random Muslim looking guy comes and gets caught on camera trying to jump over a wall. I don't believe any of this. This all looks like theater to me. It all looks like an act. From both sides. From everybody. From the cops, from the Marjorie Taylor Greens, from the politicians, from the protesters. It all looks fake. And I'll say the same thing about January 6th. It all looks set up. It all looks fake.
Wow. That's a nicer bus than I took to New York the other week.
So this is one of the Crowder's on the ground reporters infiltrating the group. She said that the cop bus just drove by, the police bus. She said, dang, that's a nicer bus than I took to New York the other week. Oh, so you took a bus. Now, now, let's be fair. Let's be fair. Let's do a little real journalism here. She could have maybe she takes Greyhound everywhere. You know, even though flying is usually faster and cheaper. You know, if you're going not too far, it's better just to fly. Why wouldn't you just fly there? Why would you take a Greyhound? Greyhound sucks. Or was she bussed in on a protest bus? What is she talking about when she says, that's nicer than the bus I took to New York the other week? And then they all start joking about it.
Probably a USB charging ports in there. You
want any food, anything to drink?
They got food and snacks. They got snacks. They got drinks.
Was it cold in there?
It's pretty cold.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like cold, but.
I said no, and you said how many?
Were you really? Well, you were on the side with more people.
It's at least like 50.
Yeah.
Are you at a store?
There's like a
or they
fan
already purchased?
and like one of
50 means bail.
Like your
$50.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be fair because Crowder's been kind of, and I love Crowder. I respect him a lot, but he's been being very, he's going with one narrative with this, and we're going to see some disingenuosity later in the clip here. I don't know if I left it in, but I'll explain it to you. But just now, she said 50, and he said 50 means bail. Like, we know about this when I've talked about the Sunrise Movement and things like this, and I've done deep dives into this stuff, that these protest groups, they teach young kids, and they have it set up to where they know certain people are going to get arrested, and they already have their bail ready, and they're going to get arrested to show strength or something like that. So they get arrested on purpose, and then they get bailed out the next night because they know the prosecutors aren't going to do anything. Anyway, so so I don't know if that 50 is really referring to bail or what, but later here and the only reason I question this is because we're going to see some disingenuosity later here in a few seconds.
I think we were having people text ceasefire.
Hey, it's the next Victoria's Secret superstar.
Yeah, they said it. All right, another insurrection. No one got hard. Oh my god. Yeah.
So it says inaudible. This is the disingenuosity that I'm talking about. It says another insurrection. This time nobody got, and then the caption says inaudible. And then Steven comes in and says, this time nobody got any consequences. Nobody went to jail. So when I heard that, I thought, oh, nobody got arrested at this. Actually, 300 people got arrested. Now, that I will say that was probably part of their plan. But the fact that they put inaudible and then he changed the word that they said, when you listen to the clip, it's pretty clear that they say another insurrection. This one, nobody got hurt. The first guy says nobody got hurt, and then the other girl says nobody got harmed. This time, nobody got harmed. Another insurrection. This time, nobody got harmed. So, to be fair, maybe they planned on people going to jail. Maybe they planned on facing some consequences for this. Nowhere near, I'm sure, the consequences of like the J6 people, 22 years or anything like that. But they didn't. Crowder's clip, they kind of twisted it. They put a little spin on it. and I'm just calling that out. I'm fair. Listen.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, they said Right, another insurrection. This time. No one got harmed. Oh my God.
No one got harmed.
Yeah.
I want him to know,
So that's what they
as
said.
a Palestinian American.
But that's what's going on over there. I got one other thing kind of related to that with the Israel-Palestine stuff, and then we'll move on to the last topic. This is from Crowder. Now, if this is fake, then it's fake. Again, I'm gonna be fair here and say that this could be fake. This could be propaganda. Israel, Palestine updates, hospital bombing, cannon building insurrection, craziness going on everywhere. Everybody's IQ is lower. Oh, what a mess. What a mess we're in. All right. Last topic in the main segment. Let's see. Well, I don't see anybody saying they want to talk on the Discord. Okay, Dean. You're talking to yourself. Let's move on to the last last subject. We got updates. New information if you weren't paying attention at all. So I've argued this with Freddie and with other people many times before that when the George Floyd autopsy happened, there was clear evidence that he swallowed a bag with meth and a bag with fentanyl. He swallowed them when the cops came, and then he started having heart palpitations and getting claustrophobic, when in reality it's a big black man doesn't want to go to jail for the third time in a little police car. So when he gets put in the back of the police car, he says, "Let me out, I can't breathe, I can't breathe." Before they were even kneeling on him, he was saying he couldn't breathe. He asked to be taken out of the car. He gets taken out of the car. They call the ambulance. They lay him on the ground so he can breathe easier. But then he starts wrestling and trying to get away, so they put their knees on him. While these guys are gently resting with their hands in their pockets and their knees on his ankles, back of his knees, and his shoulder blade, he's lifting them up into the air. So he's trying to get away. They have to apply a little more pressure. They lean forward, and the ambulance picks him up. He dies later in the hospital. He did not die. Usually if somebody is choking you to death, you know, like the Daniel Penny case where he was choking the dude to death on the subway, that dude died instantly. You don't get choked to death and die an hour later in the hospital. That's not the way that works, okay? But when you're in excited delirium, and this is where like crackheads will pull stop signs out of the ground, or PCP users, it's excited delirium, especially if you're mixing uppers and downers like methanol, meth, and fentanyl. You have excited delirium where your heart's going real fast and your heart's going real slow. And your heart's going real fast and your heart's going real slow. And your blood pressure's up and down, and you get these crazy feats of strength. So this dude's laying on the ground, lifting all three of these guys into the air. They've already called the ambulance. He asked to be put on the ground because he didn't want to get put in the cop car and taken to jail for the third time. Where he would, I don't know if Chicago has 3 strikes and you're out, but he probably wasn't getting out this time. You know, he got let out too many times. They put him on the ground. They kneeled on him. He's lifting him up in the air. He dies later at the hospital after the ambulance comes. Coroner comes in, does the autopsy, and finds no sign of strangulation, no sign of asphyxiation. This is old news. This is not new news. But we have a new case coming to light from an employee at the medical examiner's office. This case has nothing to do with George Floyd or Derek Chauvin, but it is very much related to the case because basically what she says is that her employer, who had, if it's not Me Too and this isn't fake, and this person's not just trying to get paid, which is very likely, I'll keep that open. You know, it's very likely this chick's just trying to get paid. But she claims that her employer was forcing people to keep the case on Chauvin going. They didn't want to get the other officers involved, ended up getting the other officers involved because they had to push the case through because the public narrative was already made up. And he even goes as far as saying that in a case like this, if you go against the public narrative, that sort of thing ends careers. That will end your career if you go against the public narrative in a global case like this, where the whole world is protesting and burning down buildings. If you go against the narrative, you lose your career. So they pushed forth a narrative, and then the family had a second coroner come in and do a second autopsy that said he died from a drug overdose. When in reality, the original autopsy said nothing like that. The biased coroner that the family paid to come in and say the right narrative, that's BS. He died from a drug overdose. He died from a drug overdose, and some evidence is coming to light. This is just another case of, we're running out of conspiracy theories because they all keep coming true. Far left pressure in George Floyd case may have influenced trial despite lack of strangulation evidence, court documents. There he is. This is from Post Millennial. Savannah Hernandez wrote that. That's the girl. She's writing articles now. I don't know if I've ever read a Savannah Hernandez article. I love that girl. I love her. I love her. Savannah, marry me. I want a little Asian-looking Latina chick. The case surrounding George Floyd has taken another shocking turn as sworn testimony reveals that not only was there immense pressure on prosecutors to charge during the George Floyd case, but that the county's medical examiner also stated that there were no medical indications of asphyxia or strangulation in relation to Floyd. This summer, hundreds of pages of sworn testimony from Hennepin County attorneys and county employees involved in the case of George Floyd revealed the extreme pressure prosecutors faced in Hennepin County to charge Derek Chauvin and 3 other former Minneapolis police officers for the death of George Floyd. Per Alpha News, multiple employees of the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, including a prosecutor for the case, withdrew after stating that the pressure to charge the other 3 officers involved violated professional and ethical rules. This information has come out after being included in a sex discrimination complaint filed by former Hennepin County prosecutor Amy Sweezy, one of the office's top prosecutors against County Attorney Mike Freeman. In 2022 complaint, she alleges that she disagreed with CA, the county attorney, about charges in a case, stating that she believed they violated professional and ethical rules. She ultimately withdrew from the case, further claiming that 3 other male assistant attorneys also disagreed with Freeman and refused to work on the case. So Tucker Carlson did an interview about this with a base black guy. So we're going to show you the base black guys and the de-base black guys. We got George Floyd and we got a base black guy. So let's watch this clip from Tucker.
We know that it was not, in fact, a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Now that we know that Ukraine is not actually winning the war against Russia, it could be time to revisit some of the other slogans we've been assured are true and ordered to repeat. Are they, in fact, true? Did, for example, a racist white cop actually murder a man called George Floyd, a civil rights leader, in Minneapolis on Memorial Day of 2020? Significantly, they also sent a cop called Derek Chauvin to prison for more than 40 years. He would be the racist white devil who murdered George Floyd. But the question is, did he actually murder George Floyd? And the answer is, well, no.
So I thought it was
he didn't murder
years.
George Floyd. And we're not guessing about that. We know it conclusively, thanks to a new court case now underway in Hennepin County, Minnesota. The case was brought by a prosecutor there called Amy Sweezy. She's suing her boss. So the case is not actually about George Floyd or Derek Chauvin, but it tells you an awful lot about both of them. It was yet another narcotics OD in a country that records more than 100,000 of them every year. The medical examiner clearly understood that and, in fact, articulated with the knowledge that George Floyd was not actually strangled to death by a cop.
Here's the interview with him.
We have to acknowledge the people that gave it to us and why. See, George Floyd is the Democratic Party's prototypical black man.
There it is.
These are the black men they are trying to create. So George Floyd has to be elevated. He has to be celebrated. He's perfect to them.
Make
He
statues
was poor,
and monuments.
He was
for him.
uneducated. He was a drug addict. He didn't have a job. He was down there begging and crying and asking the white people to not kill him. To a Democrat, to a white Democrat, this is the perfect black man.
Yep.
So he has to be elevated. Look, not a few days ago, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden celebrated hip hop music. They had a celebration of hip hop.
Hip hop culture
Hip-hop.
is America's culture.
So just so everybody knows, I love hip-hop music, but I also understand that it's degenerate. But I loved hip-hop. And it wasn't until much later in life I realized, oh yeah, this really is degenerate music. Like this is promoting everything wrong with the world today. And now I found some good Christian hip hop that isn't lame. When I was growing up, all the Christian hip hop music was lame. It was whack. But same thing with rock. There's good Christian rock, or at least, even if it's not Christian, at least something that has a decent message, like a positive message instead of this negativity all the time. But I still like it. I'm just saying, I'm not a hypocrite. I understand that it's wrong, but I still like it. That's my guilty sin, is that I still listen to Lil Wayne and I still listen to Eminem, but I know that it's evil, degenerate music, and I can separate good from evil and see that I just appreciate it for well-crafted words, honestly.
It is a genre.
But they're honoring it. Kamala and Joe honoring hip-hop.
Melody and rhyme. And hip-hop is also an ethos.
A music genre that calls the black man the N-word, calls women the W word and the B word, talks about misogyny, shooting police,
nothing wrong with
smoking
misogyny.
dope, selling dope, fighting, killing,
That's
acting
bad.
a fool.
That's
They
bad.
celebrated this
Bad.
genre. Why? Because this is how they see black America. They see us the same way they see George Floyd. And they have to make more of us, because everywhere they rule, John F. Kennedy stood in front of the Berlin Wall in the 60s and said, if you think that communism is great, let them come to Berlin. Well, if you think that the Democratic Party is great, let them come to Detroit. Let them come to Chicago. Let them come to St. Louis. Let them come to L.A., Portland, Seattle, Memphis. Anywhere where they rule, you'll see George Floyd's all over the place. And they're proud of them.
We know that it was not, in fact, a
Facts.
pandemic of the unvaccinated.
So that guy goes on to elaborate and explain that this was a catalyst that they were waiting for. They said, let's start a bunch of problems all over the country. Let's have people rioting and protests all over the country. And let's wait till one crazy black guy gets killed by one upset, tired, ain't got no time for this mess white guy. And then let's blow it out of proportion, make it a global thing to make even more. I don't like the word. I don't like saying division, because I believe Jesus was 100% pro-division. I'm pro-division. I'm okay with division. No such thing as unity. United States, we don't have that anymore. Not unless we all get back under the same theology. We will not have a United States. So I'm not united with Muslims and atheists and even Jews and all the Hindus and Buddhists and Wiccans, and I'm not united with them. I'm not united with that. So we are divided, and we should be divided. Oil and water don't mix. Good and evil don't mix. So Jesus did not come to unite. He came to divide. He came to bring a sword. Did I come to bring peace on earth? No, I came to bring a sword. I didn't come to bring peace. I came to bring division, dividing families, dividing mothers from children, and sons from fathers. That's what Jesus was about. He wasn't some peace on earth bringer. When we got peace on earth, that means the world's about to end. We're supposed to have trauma in the Middle East. Jews and Muslims are supposed to be fighting since Ishmael and Isaac. That's all part of the plan. That's how it's going to go. There's no stopping it. We're not going to make peace. If we make peace, the world's about to blow up. Okay? But they sow division between races. I don't think there should be a division between races. I think it comes down to your ideas and your theology and your belief system and your foundation, whether it be in God and Jesus, or whether it be in Allah, or whether it be in Hindu. I don't care about your skin color. You're my brother if you're my brother in Christ. You want to be a Pharaoh? You're not my brother. But I love my enemies. So we can still get along. We can still talk. But my brothers who I'm going to be with in heaven are my brothers and sisters in Christ. That's my family. So, you could be a blood relation. You don't believe in Jesus, you don't believe in God, you're not my brother. You could be a different race from another country in the world. I've never even met you. I've never even talked to you. But if you're my brother in Christ, you're my brother. So to me, that's how it works. But they sowed racial division in the country with the George Floyd thing, and that was a catalyst. And that guy goes on to say that they're going to do it again. They're going to do it again before 2024 while we're all focused on wars and sending our troops to other countries and drafting Gen Zers and women and sending them all over the world and spreading our military out thinner and thinner and our resources and our money out thinner and thinner, getting more deeper into debt. They're going to sow division here in our country, on our soil, between the races, between the black illegal or between the blacks, between the illegal immigrants, between the legal immigrants coming from all over the place, the white people, the Christians, the different religions we have. They're going to sow that division. And they're going to wait for another catalyst, and they're going to broadcast it. BLM's going to get their funding again from the Democrats. They're going to blow up big in 2024, right before the election. Count on it. Count on it. Maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe I'm wrong. But I said 2024 was going to get crazy. I said we're going to have wars. We're going to have protests. We're going to have riots. We're going to have storms and earthquakes and fires and freaking satellites with laser beams on their freaking heads. And it all seems to be happening. So it is not that I'm some prophet. It's not that I'm some wise sage. It's just that I pay attention. I just pay attention. And I'm not angry about it. I'm not scared. None of that. I just observe it and see it. Pay attention. How dare you disperse twerk culture? But let's read this deposition, then we will be done with all the main story news. And then if you guys want to call in on Discord, if you want to talk about anything, let me know while I'm doing the memes. And we can do that. New court documents. This is from Alpha News. New court documents expose the extreme pressure prosecutors face in the Hennepin County to charge Derek Chauvin and 3 other former Minneapolis police officers in the death of George Floyd. So I already told you about that. I want to read some of the quotes from the deposition. The Chauvin stuff is the catalyst of this, Lofton said, according to the transcript from his June 6th deposition. There was extreme premium pressure. Yes, the city was burning down, Lofton said. He explained that while he wanted the case charged and believed there was probable cause to charge Mr. Chauvin with third-degree murder, the pressure from outside the office was insane, and he had reservations about charging the other 3 cops. Lofton wrote a letter to Freeman on June 3rd of 2020 explaining his decision to withdraw from the case. I wanted it in writing, and I wanted to make sure it was documented that I wasn't going to let that situation, what was going on in the world, affect my judgment, because I have to sleep at night no matter what. And so I wrote the letter, and I wanted it to be memorialized, Lofton said. I can tell you that everyone that I associated with to any degree, professionally or personally, agreed with our decision. He was not happy. He felt like our decision in Chauvin ruined him and ruined the office, he continued. He didn't say those exact words to me. I know he was incredibly angry with me. That was my understanding, that it was not about Chauvin, that it was about the others. Craker told attorneys during June 13th deposition, my understanding was that they withdrew because they would not file charges, and that was the directive. The directive. In the days leading up to the Sweezy and Lofty withdrawing from the case, Sweezy described tense meetings and phone calls. He, Freeman, was screaming at us. He asked whether we had worked out deals with state court and other 3 officers. Of course we had not. He screamed, "What the fuck have they been doing all day?" And to Andy LaFleur, former chief deputy county attorney, about Patrick and me, Sweezy said, according to the transcript from her deposition on August 21st. At one point, Lofton mentioned the optics surrounding the case. I don't give a fuck about your optics. The 2 of you need to get back to work. You're fucking this up, Freeman replied, according to Sweezy's deposition. During her deposition, Sweezy also discussed a revealing conversation that said she had the day after Floyd's death when she asked Hennepin County medical examiner Dr. Andrew Baker about the autopsy. I called Dr. Baker early that morning to tell him about the case and ask if he would perform the autopsy on Mr. Floyd, she explained. He called me later in the day on that Tuesday, and he told me that there were no medical findings that showed any injury to the vital structures of Mr. Floyd's neck. There were no medical indications of asphyxia or strangulation, Sweezy said, according to the transcript. He said to me, Amy, what happens when the actual evidence doesn't match up with the public narrative that everyone's already decided on? And then he said, this is the kind of case that ends careers. So there you have it. You can read the full deposition. I do believe the things that I've witnessed here show that Freeman was trying to get back at her because of Floyd, Lofton said during his deposition. So Lofton is saying that that the case is faulty. She's just trying to get back at him. But that's about the sexist thing. So the sexist thing, Sweezy and Lofton both reference what they call sexist comments Freeman is accused of making. The remarks were that he said to Patrick, big white boys like us aren't going to be ruling the world anymore. We have to start letting, he either said black or people of color, in particular men. We already had to let the white girls in, and he turned to me, looked at me, and said, because they're smarter than we are, and we all need someone to keep our feet warm at night, Sweezy explained. So she brought up the sexual allegations because of these comments. Then later, she actually won that case. I think she got paid out like $110,000 or some amount of money, a large amount of money. And then she brought these cases up. So interesting stuff going on, you know, with the George Floyd case. Not surprising. Nothing new. It's not new news. We knew all of this. It just got buried. It got hidden. The internet hid it from you. They memory hold it. And they pushed you into the one narrative that they want you to believe through social media and things like that. And then when you tell this to somebody who doesn't actually dig and doesn't look at both sides, they only see one side of the argument. When you bring this stuff up to them, they have no idea what you're talking about. And you sound crazy to them. The Bible says that it will sound foolish to the non-believer. And we see this all the time in the world. You know, if you're not really studying to show yourself approved and you're not really looking into all the aspects of it, you are going to have a one-sided view of it, and anybody else who says anything opposite of that is going to sound foolish to you. Yep. It's like me with flat earth. Flat earthers think flat earthers think I'm foolish. I think they're foolish. The difference is I've looked at both sides very, very deeply. And that's why I get my beliefs. Not because I listened to one side and just bought into it and believed it. But that's all the main story news, guys. That's all we got. It's a chill show tonight. Or the big boys of the world. I don't know what you're talking about, Dean. I don't know what you're talking about. What you talking about? Good sound. Let's get to the memes. You guys ready for the memes? What's up, Jeff Hewitt? It's meme time. I need some water. Got cotton mouth like a pothead. All right. Little Billy's opening up the oven. He says, hey, Mom, you got any more of that hot snatch Dad was raving about last night? Billy, no. No, Billy. You don't understand what Dad's talking about. You don't want to be getting any of that hot snatch Dad was talking about. Poor Billy. Next. Took a little bit of acid. Ooh. How come the girls with the dreadlocks are always cute, but I don't like girls with dreadlocks? You would be so hot if you didn't have the dreadlock. And what's this stuff on your teeth? What is on her teeth? What the? It says, took a little bit of acid. And it says, I just know both their parents work for Lockheed Martin. Yeah. It's so true. When I go to the drum circle, there'll be like one little cluster of actual like hippies and actual homeless people who are minimalists, who live off the land and travel, nomads, things like that. And then the majority of the drum circle is all college kids that are like rich, and they're paying $100K a year for tuition at the U, or they live in their in their parents' mansion, and they come down to Liberty Park and they go to the drum circle and they're like, "Oh, I'm a hippie now. I'm a hippie. Let me take some acid. Let me be loosey goosey." What a mess. So true. So true.
Beta.
Next. The last thing you see after you expose the Epstein client is Britney, bitch. That's not Britney. That's Hillary Clinton.
Oh, the murderers.
Yeah.
Oh, Clinton, he murdered a guy.
Oh, Clinton, he murdered a guy. Hillary going crazy out here. Uh-oh, I was talking about man things, and now Dean's going to go off. For the next hour, he's going to be talking about that. Little ganja never heard anything. Porn BS. If you need to do that stuff, just close your eyes and create your own images and experience. First and foremost, did you secure that new job? If they test you, what's up with that? I got the new job. I start on Wednesday. And no, they don't do that. Even if they did, I'd probably pass it. I have a fast metabolism and I smoked like a tiny little bit. So still probably pass the drug test. But there's no drug test. So next. Okay, this is two memes that go together. So this was from a DeSantis supporters page where they against the Trump supporters all day long. You know, the gays against Trump, against groomers, those type of people. They posted a meme. It was two pictures. This is the first picture. And it said, this was a Trump polling place, a Trump polling place at a Trump, what's it called? Campaign stop or something. And then it says, here's DeSantis. Here's DeSantis. You see DeSantis, he's got a full crowd of people. DeSantis got a full crowd of people. DeSantis got a full crowd of people. DeSantis got a full crowd of people. Let's take a second to look at this for a second before you go falling for the okie doke. Let's see. In this picture, looks like DeSantis is in like a card store or a bar or something. A little ass bar. There's like maybe 100 people at tops in this room. Here, oh, we got DeSantis at a restaurant. Looks like DeSantis is at a Chili's, and he's got a full crowd, maybe 200 people tops there. You know, ooh, big crowd, full crowd. We got DeSantis in a factory somewhere or in a warehouse. You know, packed room at the warehouse, at the little warehouse room. Maybe 100, 200 people. Oh, and a big one. We got DeSantis at a hotel conference room, and the conference room is packed. Conference room is packed. 200 people, 300 people tops. Let's look at the Trump picture. This is at a Trump campaign stop, and they said, "Look how empty it is." Well, if you notice, this is like the waiting area where you go through this line to get to where Trump is going to be. This is where people are gathered before the show starts. If you look up here, this is the stage, and it's a giant arena, and all these seats are going to be packed. So don't believe what you see. The people are either in the seats already and he's about to get to come to the stage, or they're not there yet. But this whole room will be packed by the time the show starts. Next. If that hot goth /witch chick suddenly gives you a chance this month, don't fall for it. It's sacrifice season. Trust me. Oh, yeah.
Beta!
Don't fall for the hot goth witch chicks. I know they got some sort of flavor to them that makes them tempting. That's Satan. That's Satan playing with your mind. You see a girl like this grabbing your hand and trying to take you to the abandoned building, you need to be on alert. You need to not follow her because you're going to end up sacrificed to Moloch. Next. Somebody's typing all caps. The panda. Panda has arrived. Have I missed the George Floyd news? You have. You have. We talked about how new evidence is coming out. There's a case opened up from Amy Sweeney, a prosecutor. She is opening a case against her former employer, which was the medical examiner, and how he originally said there was no signs of suffocation or asphyxiation. And due to the public narrative, he didn't want to lose his career. So they changed the story and they put a man in jail for 44 years for nothing. That's the George Floyd news. What's up, the panda? All right. Mariah Carey, knowing it's starting in just a few weeks. Uh-oh. Mariah's coming. I used to love Mariah. She's looking kind of rough here. Man, I used to love Mariah. Shakira, Mariah. Those are my girls. Savannah Hernandez. I'm allowed to simp for Mariah, Shakira, Savannah Hernandez, Kayleigh McEnany until she wasn't the press secretary. She got a job for Fox and she turned into a turncoat. She used to be on the list. Next meme. When you try to haunt her in her dreams, but she a freak. Freddie, calm down with that. What the? Oh no, Freddie giving her the finger. What the? I don't know where this meme came from. Next. Scientists say they can recreate living dinosaurs within the next 5 years. There's literally like 4 movies showing why this is a bad idea. Don't do it. It's not a good idea. You don't want to bring back the dinosaurs. It's not a good idea. Next. Walmart cashier includes nothing. There is no Walmart cashiers. Self-checkout, buddy. This is your Walmart cashier here. Adult size costume. The Halloween costume memes are here. Next. Who taught you to put hot sauce in ramen noodles? I've been sleeping with Frederica. Oh, Mom. Look at me, Becky. Tell me who taught you this. You've been hanging out with them blacks. You've been hanging out with them George Floyd types.
Beta!
Oh, man. Next. I won't be eating hot sauce. I eat hot sauce and ramen noodles. What am I talking about? Next. We got that congressman. Tough decision here. Fire alarm. Pull down or push to exit. Which one is it? Which one is it? Which one do I do? Fire alarm. Hit the fire alarm. We're taking the fire alarm option. Do it. Do it. Where's my sound effect? Next meme. Beyond parody from Libs of TikTok, this male just won a spot on the top hottest 100 women list. They're mocking us. From Maxim. Maxim magazine. Man, Maxim magazine used to be the go-to. This is one of our new 100 hottest women. 100 hottest women.
It's a man, baby!
I am not gay. I have relationships with women and sex with men.
And I got news for you. That means you're gay.
Next. Just putting this out there for the flat earthers. Daytime, nighttime. See? Light, ball, daytime, nighttime. Flat earth. Let's try it on the flat earth. A little quick science for you. A little science for you. A little quick science for the flat earthers. A little basic common sense science. Nope. Next. How can you eat these precious creatures? It's a deer. How can you eat these precious creatures? Somebody responded, is this rhetorical or are you looking for recipes? I can tell you how to make venison jerky. You could eat the heart. You can make steaks out of that thing. Or you want some recipes, Karen, on how to eat these things? What are you asking? Sounds about right. Next. Multiple choice questions be like, all somewhat similar, but only one is correct. All somewhat similar. We got eyebrows. We got mustache. We got no eyebrows, no mustache. We got eyebrows and mustache. Steve Harvey. Which one's right? I think it's D. The answer is D. Next. Uh-oh. Hypnotized by Communist Fist, Black Lives Matter. Hypnotized by the COVID virus. Hypnotized by the Ukraine flag. Hypnotized by the LGBTQS TD low IQ flag. Hypnotized by the sun, climate change. It's getting hot. Hypnotized. Hypnotized. You are hypnotized by Isreal. Sounds about right.
Beta!
Yep, that's what it looks like. I got another 2-part one here. So this is the meme I saw. Customers who bought this item, 9/11, also bought COVID, climate change, in Ukraine. Now, when I saw this meme, I've left in the comments a little made by Jim Bob meme. Do you think we're intelligently designed? That's a silly question. This is all a simulation. That's silly. This is all a simulation. Wait, you don't think intelligent design made the simulation? What are you talking about, buddy? You sound like you're from China or something.
Beta!
Next. This is pop. This is soda. Pop. When mama smacks you in the back of the head, that's what pop is. This is soda. Do not call this pop. If you call this pop, then you got some sort of issues. Cut it out. Cut it out. This is pop. This is soda. Yep, I agree with that. Next. Tool fans, when the worst song you've ever heard comes on. No, that's not Tool. What's a Tool song? No, that's System of a Down. See, I don't even know Tool because it's so whack. You got to be tripping on acid to think Tool is good music. I agree with this. Look at my geometric chakras, and you see the color wavelengths and the what's it called? Something geometry, sacred geometry. And there's shapes and everything is a Fibonacci sequence. Next. Behold, the best named bar in Thailand. Golf bar cocktails very strong. We do not check ID card and restaurant. That's a good bar name. I like that bar name. I think I concur. Let's see. What else we got? We got a lot of memes I need to go through them quick. Next. Craft beer drinkers when someone hands them a pint of actual motor oil. That's gross. I love it. Yeah. Sounds about right. Sounds about right.
Beta!
Craft beers are nasty. Usually. I like the Devastator. We got one good craft beer. When you sleep 4 hours at night and think coffee will fix it. It's a Band-Aid on an earthquake. Band-Aid on an earthquake. That's right. Yep. Next. We got Stone Cold in the Rock. Me patiently eating my dinner. I'm just chilling, eating my dinner. Echo, my dog. Wait, you gonna eat all that? You gonna eat all that? Can I have a piece? Can I have... Give me some. Echo also freaks out when he hears the doorbell. He freaks out. The only time Echo barks is when he hears the doorbell. Next. People who are still awake at 6 a.m. People who get up at 6 a.m. This is me. Harry Potter. Why has Harry Potter got guns? And why is Ron feeling threatened? People who get up at 6 a.m. are scared. I agree. Next. Ear. It all comes as one piece. It's all free. EAR. It's in the game. Outer ear, $59.99. Ear canal expansion pack, $29.99. Eardrum, $9.99 a month. EAR. It's in the game. Sounds about right. Stop charging us extra. Just charge us for the game. I don't want to pay for DLC. I don't want to pay for a subscription fee. Get that crap out of here. Next. Babe, what's wrong? You haven't tried your Hellraiser crackers and dip yet. Hellraiser crackers and dip, baby. Eat it. Babe, you got to eat your Hellraiser crackers and dip. Next. Can you fax the offer over to me? Sorry, I can't fax from where I live. Oh, where is that? 2023. I live in 2023, Susan. We don't fax in 2023. Sounds about right. Hey, Susan. We don't fax in 2023. Next. Seinfeld for Gen Z. There's Jerry. There's George Supreme with the pot leaves on his shirt. He's Jewish. He don't smoke pot. Look at Kramer looking like a pimp. Kramer's a pimp. And then Elaine's got the half hair shaved. Oh, I hate that haircut on women. If you ever cut your hair like that, women, where you shave half your head, just don't talk to me. Ever. 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 I don't want to hear it.
Beta! It's a man, baby! Beta!
Yep. Next. When you're acting hard in front of your squad, but the horse knows you a bitch. That is not a man, baby.
It's a man, baby!
No, that's a woman. That's a woman. They let a woman into the military. Look at the facial features. Look at the eyebrows. Look at the small nose. These are facial features of a woman in man's clothing in the military. This is what's going to happen when we draft the women. This is it right here. We're like China. We're like the Asian countries that force their citizens into military service because America's got their back and they're not worried about losing anybody. Next. I bet he's thinking about other girls. What color is a mirror?
It's a man, baby!
Yep, that's a man. That's a man. What color is a mirror? Who knows? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. It's a mystery. Next. All right. This meme's funny, but I have a amendment. I have a addendum. I have a change to make to it. It says, I'm about to buy this. I haven't slept good in a while. And it's one of the old school desks. I would change this meme to, I'm about to buy this. I need protection from earthquakes, tornadoes, shootings, and nuclear war. I need to buy one of these desks because when in school we're taught that these things protect you from world tragic natural disasters, tsunamis, earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes. They protect you from school shooters. If there's a school shooter in the building, you do a lockdown drill. You hide under your desk. They'll protect you from that. And they protect you from nuclear winter and nuclear war. If China and Russia and Hamas all fire nukes at us at the same time, all you got to do is hide under one of these and you'll be fine. That's what I learned. Economic collapse. Objects in mirror are closer than they appear. Yes, 100%. 100%. Ring the gong. We're becoming like China. We'll be, you'll own nothing and be happy. They are closer than they appear. Next. If these guys couldn't take our guns, the redcoats from Great Britain, the British, get all these bottles of water. If these guys couldn't take our guns, I sure the hell ain't worried about these people. These, feminine men.
It's a man, baby!
No, that's not a man.
I am not gay. I have relationships with women and sex with men.
And I got news for you. That means you're gay.
Yeah, these
Beta
ain't taking the guns. That sounds about right. Next. But the elites in the government might when they send soldiers to your front door. We don't negotiate with terrorists. We finance them, says Joe Biden. Sounds about right. That's Biden for you. Next. If you don't know that they control both the narrative and the counter narrative, you are not awake yet. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. You're 100% correct. That's what I've been saying. Next. Attention, Biden voters. Please put your sign back up in your yard so the illegals know where to stop for food and shelter. Thank you. The illegals come to America and they say, wait till I get my money right. Yep, sounds about right. Next. Causes cancer, prevents cancer. These are dandelions. These are high in vitamin C. They make great tea. They make salads when you're in the woods and you got trout and you're tired of eating just trout. You get fished out. You can make a little fish salad with some dandelion leaves. You can eat the flowers and make a tea with them and with spruce. Make a delicious tea. And it prevents cancer, according to things like Dr. Sebi Bible and natural remedies and books like this. Meanwhile, the spray that causes cancer, we're spraying on the thing that prevents the cancer to kill the weeds, quote unquote. Interesting. Interesting. Welcome to China. Welcome to communist world. The nukes are coming. Yep. Stop right there. All right. We're moving through this show. It'll be a shorter show tonight. What else do I got? Anybody want to jump in on the Discord? Talk to me about something? I don't have a lot of reels or rapid fire news. And I don't have a whole lot for the last segment either. Oh, it looks like I have more reels and rapid fire news than I do regular news. But there are a bunch of quick headlines. We got some oddity news. We got some what do we got in the rapid fire news? We're going to build on the George Floyd stuff. We got a base black guy, a degenerate black guy. And then we'll talk about why Martin Luther King was a communist. We'll do a quick thing on that. Probably something I should say for like Black History Month or Martin Luther King Day. But I just want to show that the George Floyd stuff, the protests, the riots, since we were talking about that, they'll try to tell you like that like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X were heroes and they were wise men. No, they weren't. Martin Luther King was a socialist. Might as well have been a communist because they're the same thing in my book. They're just, one is the precursor to the other. Communism is the inevitable conclusion of socialism. And that if Martin Luther King was alive today, he would have been marching right beside the Black Lives Matter people burning down buildings. He supported all of that stuff, and he pushed a lot of the beginning narratives that led to where we are today. He's not a hero. He shouldn't be honored. He cheated on his wife. I think he beat his wife. So not the type of guy we should be honoring like he's some sort of hero. We'll talk about all that stuff. We'll talk about Britney. And then we'll talk about the draft. I kind of already covered all the draft stuff, but I got some articles. We'll look at that. Dean, I told you how long I was banned when I first got banned. So just do the math. I don't know. You ask that question every week. Like, you could figure it out. You could do the math. If it's 90 days and you know when I started streaming on Rumble, do the math. Okay. I had to do it. I had to do it for the Rumble. I'll cut that out of YouTube. But you got me. You going to cancel me? I said it. Oh my God, I said it. Next.
Hello, Navarro.
Now, since we're on the Blacks, we love the Blacks. Since we're on the Blacks, we got a based black preacher here at a school board meeting. Cover your ears, kids, because this is gross. It's edited, but it's gross. Let's watch this.
Hello, Navarro. Suck any good lately. What's wrong, Navarro? I think you like a big in your mouth. Ha ha ha. Page 23. The other boy, page 23. Here it is. What's the educational benefit of talking about?
Oh yeah.
What's the educational benefit of talking about that? Is that going to help someone on the SAT score? Hear me kind. Get a shot of that.
I only say it in context where it's acceptable. So if I'm quoting rap music, I'm going to quote it accurately. I'm going to say what they said in the song. That's to show respect for the artist. If I'm quoting somebody else, then I'll say it. But I'm not going to call somebody that like an insulting term, you know? And if that makes somebody mad, then they should probably grow up.
She can care less. That's a sign. She needs to put down her sign.
Gentlemen here.
Oh, but Freddie called me a cracker in one of the Facebook's chats. And just so you know, if you call me cracker, then you're giving me every right to call you a hard R. And I don't like to even use that term. But if somebody calls me a cracker, then I will call them that because I'm just giving back what you gave me. So, yeah. And if you want to get mad or cry about it, then too bad. Sorry about it. You can come see me. I got Jesus. I got my two hands. And I got some other things that we don't talk about, you know? I might have like a ninja sword. I might have a baseball bat. Who knows what I got? You don't know what I got. So, there you go. And if God is for me, who can be against me?
You're putting me out. For what? For asking you to abide by the rules. A board member held up a sign, but the audience couldn't hold up signs. This is tyranny, and we're dealing with a corrupt government system.
Base black man. Now, let's see a not so base black man. This is horrible. Now, again, I don't trust anything on the internet. They could have done this to make a viral clip and all these punches could be pulled, but it looks pretty real. And it looks like the degeneracy that we're seeing in the public school system. It looks like the racial divide that has been sown by the media. Looks like some low IQ black kid wanting to go viral on TikTok so he beats up a white kid. And basically he's going to ask this white kid, you have 5 seconds to be as racist as possible. And the kid says, no, I don't want to be as racist as possible. What do you mean? Why would I do that? And let's see how this, and so he says no. Let's see the response from this young black man. Great shot to the jaw. Kid didn't even go down. This kid's not defending himself. He's not covering his face, so he has no fighting experience. He's probably never been in a fight before, or at least he would know to at least cover up, at least go fetal position and cover up and take the shots to less lethal places. But this kid doesn't cover up. This kid doesn't fight back. But despite all that, despite the fact that he has no fight experience, he has no fight knowledge, no fight IQ, he doesn't know what to do in this situation. He doesn't even know to cover up. This black dude can't knock him out in one punch. This black dude can't drop him when he catches him off guard, cheap shots him, can't knock him out. So they're both weak. I made my point. Martin Luther King was a communist. This all led to this. The George Floyd stuff led to this. The Martin Luther King, the Jesse Jacksons, the Al Sharptons, the MLK, the Malcolm X's, all led to this stuff. If you didn't know, Martin Luther King was a communist. I'm gonna read to it. First shot landed on the nose. That hurts like a bitch. I hate getting hit on the nose. Looked like he caught him in the side. Maybe it grazed the nose, but he hit him like repeatedly in the side of the head. Couldn't drop the kid. So I give him that. The kid either, I think they were both kind of weak. The one dude couldn't even hurt him. He didn't even knock him unconscious after hitting him repeatedly in the face. But then the other kid is not covering up. He's not standing up. He's not fighting back. Grab their legs, cover up, let him hit you in the back of the head while you grab their legs and try to get the takedown. Something. That should just be common sense. That should just be instinct in men to know at least a little bit how to defend yourself. That kid didn't do any defense. Assuming that's real. All assuming that's real. Could be totally fake. King believed that multiracial working class movement was required to overcome the failings of capitalism. In 1952, a 23-year-old Martin Luther King Jr. wrote a love letter to Coretta Scott, along with coups of affection and apologies for his hasty handwriting. He described his feelings not just towards his future wife, but also towards America's economic system. I am much more socialistic in my economic theory than capitalistic, he admitted to his then-girlfriend, concluding, capitalism has outlived its usefulness. King composed these words as a grad student at the tail end of his first year at the Boston University of Theology, and far from representing just the utopianism of youth, the views expressed in the letter would go to inform King's economic vision throughout his life. As Americans honor King on his birthday, it is important to remember that the civil rights icon was also a democratic socialist. And what's the difference between a democratic socialist and a social democrat? Nothing. They're the same thing. One's a Nazi and one's a Democrat. Committed to building a broad movement to overcome the failings of capitalism and achieve both racial and economic equality for all people. Doesn't exist. Capitalism has brought about a system that takes necessities, this is a quote from King, to masses to give luxuries to the classes, King wrote in his 1952 letter to Scott. He would echo the sentiment 15 years later in his last book, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community? Capitalism has often left a gap in superfluous wealth and abject poverty and has created conditions permitting necessities to be taken from the many to give luxuries to the few. There's a lot of stuff like this in here. But I'm not going to do a deep dive into this, but, you know, there is a lot of evidence King was disgusted with the juxtaposition of decadence and destitution in America. We compress our abundance into the overfed mouths of the middle and upper classes until they gag with superfluity. And that's a little Marxism for you right there. The proletariat has to attack the bourgeoisie. And meanwhile, the elites, the upper class, the top, not the upper middle class, the bourgeoisie, not the poor, the proletariat. What happens is they pit those against each other in this class struggle, which is now a race struggle. And it leads to the elites getting richer and the poor getting poor and the destruction of the middle class. And that's what we see everywhere today. And that's what Martin Luther King was about. He's a proponent of Marxism and socialism, democratic socialism, basically communism light. So there's a little history for you on that. Let's move on. China playing bumper boats. Global news. China playing bumper boats. China's been doing this for a while. They're posting up ships off the coast of Alaska, and they're like having close calls with other ships. Now they're actually bumping into Filipino ships. They're playing bumper boats with multi-million-dollar vessels. Playing battleship in real life. This is from USNI News. China Coast Guard vessel collides with Filipino supply ship in South China Sea. The incident occurred at 6:04 a.m. according to the statement, which blamed China Coast Guard vessel 5203's blocking maneuvers for a collision with the armed forces of the Philippines contracted resupply boat Yunazay on May 2nd at approximately 13.5 nautical miles east of the Sierra Madre. The provocative, irresponsible, and illegal action of CCGV 5203 imperiled the safety of the crew, and Yunazay May 2nd read the statement. So, old news. It happened a while ago. It's just now being reported on October 2nd of 2023. China playing bumper boats. Little global news for you. Let's do some oddities. Y'all want to do some oddities? Actually, first, let's do some local news. Local news from me here in Salt Lake City, Utah. 65-year-old woman in mobility chair killed by tracks train in Sandy. I don't know. I just thought this was a crazy headline. 65-year-old woman in a mobility chair was killed after being struck by a tracks train in Sandy. Tracks is like our public transportation, and her wheelchair got stuck and got hit by the tracks. I don't know. I don't even know why this is. I just thought it was interesting. Next. Let's move on to that before I start making jokes about a poor woman in a mobility chair. Yeah, you just don't dog hat. I don't know what that means. Let's debunk some propaganda that Freddie put out onto my channel recently. I was playing Mario, and he was in one of the streams on Discord talking to me, and he made a claim. He made a fake claim, and I'm going to debunk it because we don't need this sort of propaganda going out to the world. We don't need lies and deceit being put out by the enemy. So let's debunk one of his claims. He claimed that Mario is not actually saying, "It's a me, Mario." And I said, because he said, "Josh, what does Mario say?" I said, "It's a me, Mario." And Freddie said, "Nope, that's not true." He's actually saying the Japanese word, "Itsumi, Mario." Itsumi, Mario. Now, Mario was made in Japan. Nintendo from Japan. All that stuff. But Mario's Italian. He doesn't speak Japan. He speaks Italian. Okay? So, Freddie made this claim that he's saying, "Itsumi, Mario," which allegedly meant super. I was like, where did he get this from? So I said, I'm going to look into it. So I got an article from Distractify. I've never even heard of this article before, but apparently a TikToker claimed that Mario was saying the Japanese word for super, which is Itsumi, Mario, saying Super Mario. Turns out, in actuality, this TikTok claim was false, and that Itsumi does not mean super. Itsumi is actually a title. It's a title given to people. It's like a name. It's like Christ for Jesus is a title. It's a name. It's not actually Jesus's last name. It's his title. It means the chosen one. Itsumi means a superior or super. It's a title that you give somebody, like doctor, like Mr. or Mrs. type thing. Of all characters in gaming, few as iconic as Mario. However, a recent post on TikTok claims that we've been saying "It's a me Mario" catchphrase wrong this entire time. So what exactly does Mario say in the video games? And is there a deeper meaning? According to TikToker user Jolly Sparkles, probably gay, probably beta. Yep, and this is what Freddie gets his information from. Just so you guys know, when you hear Freddie talk, when you hear him call in and debate people, you hear him on all the different shows, I want you to understand nothing that he says is ever correct, except unless he's talking about like the history of Israel, and even that is twisted to fit his narrative. You got to watch out for people like this, because they'll take something that they saw on TikTok and they'll go around spouting it like it's fact, and this is a deceptive tactic. Mario does not say "It's me Mario." He says "It's a me Mario," and "It's me" does not mean super in Japan or great. It means it's a title. And this guy came out and made an apology. "I'm sorry, I said it wrong," because a Japanese person confronted this gay guy here. This is the guy Freddie gets his
Can you
information
drink
from.
out of the straw? Honestly, never checked. What? There's a hole.
Okay, I'm watching one of these guys' videos on accident. I should not click on TikToks. But yes, this guy on TikTok said this, and then a Japanese guy came on this guy and confronted him and said, "Sorry, bud, but you're wrong. You're an idiot." He says, "It's a me Mario," from the Japanese guy. "Somebody done goofed," said Johnny. "The somebody is me. It's me does not mean what I said it meant. It's actually a name. You can double check that on Google." So I didn't even double check it on Google before I went and made a post on TikTok about it. And this is where people like Freddie get their news. So just wanted to throw that out there. Do not believe the propaganda. He says, "It's a me, Mario." Okay? So we're just going to put that to rest. Got it? Got it. Good.
Joseph, you two ball.
All right. Let's see. Let's burn through some of these headlines real quick. We got October 19th, Winnie the Pooh slasher flick shown to Florida fourth graders sparks backlash from parents. They called it careless. Fourth graders at a Florida charter school were in for a shock and a scare when their math teacher accidentally screened the horror flick, initially thought to be age appropriate. So they thought they were showing like the cartoon Winnie the Pooh. And they showed fourth graders at a charter school the horror movie Winnie the Pooh. Now kids are having nightmares about Winnie chopping them up into pieces. Dang. Speaking of chopping up people into pieces, later I'm going to give you the synopsis for the book that I'm going to write. But I still haven't come up with an ending. So this story, I'm not going to read much about it. It's about what you would suspect. Charter school teacher thinks they're showing regular Winnie the Pooh, shows a slasher film. Now, here's the thing. What did the teacher play it and leave the classroom? Is this what it's like? And this is what I say. Public schools are bad. Private schools are bad. Charter schools are bad. Homeschool your kids, because the charter schools are no better. Maybe some private schools might be good, but a lot of them are with the woke mess just as much as the public schools. And I'm not saying this specifically, like, okay, they showed a horror movie. That's not good. Is that indoctrination from evil woke schools? Is that them teaching kids, bad things? Maybe not. But here's the problem. How much of the movie did they see before the teacher turned the movie off? Did the teacher push play and just go to sleep, walk out of the classroom, put some headphones in and start doing their own thing? How much of the movie did the kids see before the teacher was like, "Oh crap, bad movie"? It must have been a lot if there's outrage and news reports about it. Diaz claimed the movie kept rolling despite kids asking the teacher to shut it off. The kids initially selected the movie, but argued the movie shown in class should be reviewed by the teacher beforehand. She called it careless, felt completely abandoned by the school. How much did you let it play? Now they're actively monitoring the mental health of the kids because fourth graders saw a horror movie. Kind of dumb, but Elon Musk's X to test $1 subscription fee for new users. They're trying to cut back on bots from specifically the Philippines and New Zealand. So I got a friend in New Zealand who I get some news from, and I haven't asked him yet. How's it feel if you want to be on Twitter and you want to make a new account or X, and you live in the Philippines or New Zealand? You're gonna have to pay $1 a month to cut down on the bots. Elon's gonna get rich off this because a lot of those bot companies would just pay the fee to have their bots. He's gonna get rich. We got another little thing about Elon in the last segment when we talk about ghost stories and zombie stories from the Bible, as well as a little bit of end time stuff, spooky stories from the Bible in the last segment. It'll be quick. It'll be short, but I got something interesting, a connection that I might have made. We're going to make I don't want to say a prophecy, but I'm going to take a wild guess at something and see what you guys think at the end of the show. Britney Spears claims Justin Timberlake got her pregnant. Says she got an abortion in a new memoir from E.T. I really don't care about this. Not surprised. She said he wasn't ready to be a father, so she got an abortion. Is it true? Is she just trying to make herself relevant and put out a book? This is what I'm talking about. Everybody has a book. And a lot of these idiots, I know I could write a better book than them. I know a lot of them just have somebody else write the book. They tell them the story, and then somebody else writes the book. But I'm going to write a book. I can write a book better than Britney Spears, that's for sure. But I'm not going to play the clip from E.T. I'm not even going to spend more time on that. Let's look at a funny meme of DeSantis. Try to unsee this. Here's DeSantis. I can't zoom in, so let me hide this. Notice the shoes at the bottom of the screen. A little closer up of the shoes. Huh. Wait, where's his toes at in these shoes? Oh my God. What the?
It's a man, baby.
Beta. Why has he got high heels on? Try to unsee this. 1, 2. Wait, 1, 2, 3. Try to unsee it. I dare you. All right. Oddities. We got oddities in the news. One-of-a-kind cat with 2 noses is put up for adoption from Sky News. Staff at Cats Protection's Warrington Adoption Center initially thought the 4-year-old feline had 1 large nose, but vets discovered it was actually 2. That's a black cat, got a big old nose. Look at this cat with 2 noses. That's crazy. That's crazy. All right. I'm going to play a video. We have one last little segment here in Rapid Fire News. We're going to combine 3 seemingly unrelated stories that actually kind of all tie together. And it's basically regarding the draft. I talked a lot about it in the first segment. We're going to talk a little more about it as we see possible World War III on the rise, whether it be with Russia, Ukraine, China, Taiwan, Palestine, Israel, the Muslims, the Jews, America versus the immigrants, Venezuela sending criminals, whoever's rising up, BRICS, whatever it may be. Crazy stuff's going to be happening between 2024 and 2030. Agenda 2030's got to go through. Agenda 21, population reduction, global war, pestilence, famine, all this stuff is happening. Natural disasters. Is there a draft coming? A lot of people have been talking about it. A lot of people have been talking about a potential draft. A lot of people are taking it even farther. There's been posts going viral talking about the potential for women to be drafted. They want equality. They want equity. I'm not with it. I don't think women should be in the military at all. But what happens if women get drafted? What happens when these Gen Zers get drafted who are on medications and they're weak and they can't guard themselves when they start getting attacked and they can't knock somebody out when they cheap shot them? These are the people that we're going to be sending to war. Are the women going to war? We'll talk about all this stuff in the next little bit. I'm going to go take a quick restroom break while you guys watch this video of women reacting to potentially getting drafted. CSAL sent me this on Discord. You guys can send memes, videos, stuff like that on Discord. I'll check it out. Maybe I'll put it in the show. We had a little discussion, some of the people in the Discord, about this, and so I wanted to talk about it on the show. The draft, it's whatever podcast was talking about it with the women there last night, talking about what if women get drafted. Brian's saying he's okay with it because that's equality. Beta take, super beta take. If guys are saying let's draft women,
Beta!
That's beta. I don't care who you are. But let's see what the women think about potentially being drafted
into the military. That's the conversation here. And
this is a totally different type of content today, and I look busted, absolutely busted, but I just came in.
I have a feeling you always look busted.
From work, again, no makeup, my hair looks like trash. I don't even care at this point because I'm frantic. So ever since I was little, I've had this super irrational, scary phobia of like war, being bombed, like nuclear weapons, like all that stuff. Like I would freak the frick out. And then with all this stuff with Ukraine and Russia, I don't know where I've been the past few days, but I'm just now hearing of all of it, like earlier today at work. I'm like hyperventilating at my desk, sweating, asking all my coworkers to tell me something to make me feel better about this. But there's really nothing at this point. So my therapist was like, you should do some mindfulness. So I'm being mindful, and I have made a long
mindfulness. Let's see.
If I get drafted to the war, I'm gonna say I have explosive diarrhea every day. Close quarters. Nobody's gonna want that.
Have explosive diarrhea every day?
I do not want to do that. So I think you're being like really toxic and honestly gaslighting me. And my therapist said I do not have to deal with that. So it's gonna be a no from me, dog. Hypothetical situation, when we get out there, we're on the front lines, all of us ladies, because obviously we're all going to be together, we do not want to be around y'all, but what are we going to do when we all sync up? Y'all could barely handle it when we were in high school and we're all on our periods, and now we have guns as well. So just let me know.
Okay, so enough of that. So the draft, we got a fact check. Will women be drafted into the U.S. military? A video claiming American women could soon be drafted into the U.S. military has gone viral on TikTok. No surprise there. The video is posted by John Robinson on October 13th, has over 6.5 million views. As of now, there's no evidence to support that claim. So currently it's just men, but could it happen in the future? Who knows? The U.S. hasn't had a draft since 1973, but if there was one, it would only include fighting-age men. According to the Selective Service System website, federal law requires nearly all male U.S. citizens and male immigrants, what about illegal immigrants, 18 through 25, to register with Selective Service. Back in 1981, the Supreme Court ruled in Roskler versus Goldberg that women did not need to be included in the draft. They just get the rights without the responsibilities. They get to vote. They don't have to go get bucket duty and be a firefighter. They don't have to go to the military. The court reasoned that the point of registration was to fill combat roles, and at the time, women were barred from combat. However, since the Defense Department lifted its remaining bans on women in combat back in 2013, advocates like the National Coalition for Men argue a men-only draft is outdated and unconstitutional. National Coalition for Men
Beta
is beta. That's like what men's rights activists and men's rights groups, like, it's gay. It's I understand what they're saying is that the feminists have destroyed America and we need to, again, playing the devil's game to beat the devil. It doesn't work. You need to just totally ignore, like, not ignore, but you need to not give them any validity by making counter groups like men's advocacy groups to counter signal the women's advocacy groups. You're playing the devil's game to beat the devil, and the devil wins. So it doesn't work. That's beta. We don't need women in the army. What we need to do is just, end the feminism and all that crap and not play their game with them. There have been proposals introduced to require women to register for the draft. For example, last year's National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, included several proposed changes to the military draft, like requiring women to register. But according to the Congressional Research Service, none have been enacted. So I've always said, and I've always said that I could be wrong about this. If I'm not a prophet, I'll always say that. I can't predict the future. I can make guesses for the sake of content, for the sake of the show, of what I think might happen. I've always said there's never going to be another draft. That's not the way wars are fought anymore. Yes, wars are fought on the ground with soldiers, but what's more important is the information. And I'm not talking about technology with drones. I'm not talking about technology with hyper missiles and Satan nukes and Poseidon nukes. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about information technology warfare. Things like TikTok. Things like the fact that China has already taken over America without firing a single shot. They don't need to do that anymore. They're taking over the world. They're going to change the dollar with BRICS. They're going to influence elections with social media. They're going to control the narrative and the way people think to make people fight themselves. And it doesn't have to be, we don't have to draft soldiers to go to war to when the war is actually already being fought under our noses. But I could be wrong, and maybe there is another draft. If there is another draft, we're seriously in trouble because Gen Zers are weak. And this fact check says it's false that women are going to be drafted, but then it goes on to tell you that there have been proposals from the National Defense Authorization Act to get women drafted. So what happens when one of those proposals under a president like Joe Biden, the greatest leader we've ever seen, what happens when he passes a thing so that women can be drafted so that we can go to war, we can draft a bunch of people, the globalists get their way, the elites get their way because a whole generation, the whole Gen Z generation is going to be wiped out because all the women and the kids are going to be killed. The ones that aren't killed, the ones that don't go to war and get drafted are going to be LGBT, low IQ, STD, not having kids, not having babies. Maybe the men are freezing their sperm so their lesbian friends can have some babies. Who knows? But for the most part, they're not making kids. They're aborting their kids. They're killing their kids. They're going to die off. Is that a good thing? Yeah, in the long run, that helps the pendulum swing back the right way. But people still die, which that's not good. And we lose a lot of people. We lose a lot of our population. We lose a lot of our potential strength by losing population. Our economy gets hit. It's not good. It's all around bad. If we have a draft and we draft women and we draft all these mentally ill young kids who were taught in a public school system to hate their own people, it's going to be a big mess. It's going to be a big mess. And to further debunk my claims that there's never going to be another draft, we have a historical event in America. The Army fell short from the Hill of its recruiting goal of about 10,000 people this year, prompting the service to launch major reforms aimed at attracting and signing new soldiers. The Army's top leaders revealed today. There's a reason for them to have a draft. For the first time in history, the Army fell short of its recruitment goals. Could it be because they're playing recruitment videos of black lesbian women and their daughters? My mom was a strong black woman and she was a lesbian, and now I'm a lesbian and I want to join the military and be strong. Maybe that's why they're not hitting their recruitment goals, because they went woke. When you go woke, you go broke. And then one last article relating to the draft. South Korea League of Legends team wins gold at Asian Games. Players secure a military exemption. So for the people that say, in other countries, they force the civilians to go to the military, America should do that. We need to draft everybody to help protect the country, even the women. Listen, I've already said the reason that Asian countries like Thailand, or like Taiwan and like South Korea and like Israel and like Scandinavian countries, the reason why they like Switzerland, which is the Swiss are neutral. You know what they say, the Swiss are neutral. But in all those places, they have required military service of all civilians. That's because they're not really worried about a war, because America's got their back. You see, what they really care about, they don't care about their citizens going to the military where they're not going to die and nothing's going to happen and it's just going to be wasted time in their communist societies. In Korea, all you got to do is win a League of Legends tournament and you're exempt from that military service. So it doesn't mean anything. If somebody ever uses that in the debate that America should draft our women and draft everybody and everybody should be required to do military service, that's stupid. We have enough volunteer military men, strong men who want to fight for the country, to defend our borders and to defend our country. We have way more than enough money if we stop funding every other country on earth, just focused on home, just focused on strengthening our border, strengthening our military to protect our country. Nobody's going to mess with us. These Korean League of Legends players, they're not going to come over here and attack America. Nobody's going to attack America. They might start attacking other countries. If we pulled our support away from those countries might get attacked by some of our enemies. Guess what? Who cares? Who cares as long as we defend our own home? Quit worrying about what they're doing 3 blocks over. You need to worry about your own house. So that's all I got to say about that. I talked a lot about the draft in the first segment. And that's it for the rapid fire. That's it for rapid fire. That's it for the memes. That's it for the reels. We're moving through the show quick tonight. Probably going to be a shorter show. As long as it sounds, men can kill better than women on a majority level, not all, but most. Yeah, duh. Men are way stronger than women. That doesn't even need a pre-qualifier. You can just say men are stronger than women. And that's not a crazy statement. You know? Woke people will tell you otherwise nowadays. All right, before I get into the last segment, I'm gonna spoil the story. I'm gonna spoil my book. I'm gonna write a book. Here's my nightmare that I had that I'm gonna write into a book, so that and then I also came up with 2 other ideas, and I wrote. So I had 3 ideas for 3 books, 3 fiction books. Think Stephen King, think Dean Koontz, think spooky stories, fictional spooky story, right? That's my style. That's what I would write. So the first one, I had the dream about it and I wrote it down. And then while I was laying there in bed after I woke up, I was like, oh yeah. And what are some other things I could write a book about? I don't know. I had like a weird spurt of inspiration in the middle of the night when I woke up after this dream. And I thought, what about a story? So I had 3 ideas. One was from the dream. I'll tell you that whole plot. That'll be the first one. The other one was Sewer Kid. I call it Sewer Kid. And it's basically about like, the homeless people who live in the tunnels in like Vegas and LA. It would take place either in Vegas or LA or something. And it would be about a kid who was raised in a sewer by homeless sewer rat people. And like he's got like heightened senses and then he goes out and explores the world. Maybe he finds a girl. I don't know. I don't have any ideas for that one. That's just the idea is Sewer Kid. I wrote Sewer Kid. That's the one idea. The other idea I forgot. I had one other short, quick idea that came to my head. I was like, I could write a book about that. I totally forgot what it was. But here's what the dream was, and here's the first book I'm going to write. Okay? It's called Podcaster or Podcast. So, let me premise. I'm going to give you the plot. There's a shock part, and I got up to that part, but I don't have an ending. I don't know how I'm going to end the story, so I'm not totally spoiling it for you. This is copywritten by me today. Don't steal this idea. I'm going to write a script, and I'm going to write a book, a fictional story, and it's going to be cool and fun and scary and spooky. You ready? It's called Podcaster, right? So here's the dream. Or I'm going to tell you the dream, but I'm going to add in some stuff because I've been thinking about it and I've been writing like an outline of what the story could be, right? Hey, JS saying hi real fast. It's my second oldest son's 8th birthday today, so I'm busy. Have a good rest of your show. Sorry to miss it. No problem. Be wise. Happy birthday. This is your birthday song. It isn't very long. That's for your 8-year-old son. All right. So I'm going to tell you basically the dream, but I've added in some things to build on it. And then we're going to have to work out some plot holes and things like that. But here's the story. All right. In the dream, it's first person, right? It's me. I'm the main character in the dream, right? Because it's my dream and I'm having it. But in the book, when I write it, maybe I'll write it first person, but I'll probably write it third person perspective. So like looking at it from an outside perspective at everything that's happening. But also, this is not a true story. This is fiction. It's just in the dream, I was the main character. So Let me tell you, here it is. It's called podcaster, right? So in my dream, I'm like a famous podcaster, right? I'm like doing what I do, except I'm like big. I'm like famous. I'm like Crowder. I got fans. I go out and stuff. But also, as I was coming up as a podcaster, I made a rival. I had a rival podcaster. Like imagine like Freddie. Freddie starts streaming and doing a show. And he's like my rival, right? We have like a rivalry between the two of us. We have different opinions. We disagree. We debate each other. We argue with each other. And we both blow up and we both get real big. So like a Crowder and Destiny or something type of situation where you have two really big, one's on one side, one's on the other side. But they're like friends, but they're also enemies. They disagree with each other, but they also talk and stuff and all that. So they start doing friendly pranks to each other. But the pranks start getting bigger and bigger. This stuff I'll have to figure out all like some different prank ideas that they could play. And the pranks this is the first act. The first act is the two podcasters are growing. The rivalry is growing. The contention grows. Maybe one of them lives in California. One of them lives in Florida. They live far away. And the pranks get worse, bigger and bigger until finally the bad podcaster, the bad guy, the California guy, he and his crew come up with an evil plan, with an evil plot. So they find a poor retarded guy. They find this like retarded guy on the street, autistic, mentally disabled. I'll write it different. I'll write it much nicer, more politically correct. I'll say it was a mentally disabled young autistic man who is very adolescent in his mind, and he likes freaking Nickelodeon or something, and Mickey Mouse, a kid like that, right? So they find this guy, and they all riz him up, like the crew, the entourage of the bad podcaster meets this autistic guy, and they riz him up, and they become friends with him, and they pump him up there, and then they introduce him to my podcast, right? They say, hey, and they pretend they love they all pretend like they love my podcast, and they get this autistic guy to fall in love with my podcast. And they show him videos and they hype it up. And they say, this is the best thing ever. They don't believe that, but they're telling it to this autistic guy, right? So then this autistic guy falls in love and becomes obsessed, because this autistic guy, he's very emotional, and he's very, or he's got a big heart. And anybody who gives him any sort of attention or love, he clings to them. So the bad podcast squad, they're like sending me super chats while I'm podcasting from this autistic dude saying, I love you. You're a big inspiration. So I'm responding to the things. The autistic guy thinks I'm actually responding to him. He falls in love with me. He's obsessed with me. Then they say to him, hey, we're going to fly you out to Florida. And what we want you to do, now here's the plot hole I have to figure out, is how's he going to get into my house? Because in my dream, what happens is I come home one day, and this autistic obsessed fan who was sent to me by these other guys is in my house. And he's like freaking out and I freak out, and we're freaking out. And I'm like, hey, you got to get out of my house. And then he starts freaking out, and he starts getting kind of aggressive. And I end up throwing him out of my apartment and calling the cops. So what I've come up with and built on the story is they fly him out to Florida, and they tell him, hey, you're going to sneak into his house. He's going to love it. And you're going to surprise him, and you're going to get to meet him, and you're going to get to spend the day with, let's call him Josh, even though it will be a different name in the book. But in my dream, it was me. So we're going to fly you out there. And so they do this. I call the cops. I freak out because this dude broke into my house, right? I kick him out, and he starts crying, and he's hurt, and he's sad because I kicked him out. So I tell the cops, hey, he's autistic. I get it. Like, I'm not going to press charges. I don't want him to be in trouble. In fact, I'll actually, get him some food, be nice to him, spend the day with him, send him home, pay for his plane ticket home. I'm going to be kind to him. So I send the cops away. I spend the next day with this dude. I send him back to California. He gets back to California, And the bad guys, the bad group, the bad team, the entourage, they hyped this dude up. But I'm still mad. I'm mad about it, but I was like trying to be nice, trying to be a good Christian and be nice to him and stuff. So I do all this. Well, this kind of backfires because now he's more obsessed with me and they pump his head up more. Then they come up with a even more way to build on the prank. Now, I'm already like, if I ever see this dude in my house again, I'm going to whoop his ass. Like, I'm going to knock some sense into him because I gave him a chance. I don't ever want to see you again, but I'm going to buy your plane ticket home. Don't ever come back here again. Anyway, they build him up. They send him back to my house, but this time it's my birthday, and they send him with a cake, and they tell him this time, instead of waiting in his living room, you're going to go into his bedroom and you're going to turn the lights off. You're going to have the cake in there on the table, and you're going to dress up in your clown costume because you're going to be the clown at the birthday party. So he's got like one of them pointy hats on. He did some finger paint. He did some finger paints on his face, and he's hiding in my bedroom with the lights off. And they said, you have to have a knife to cut the cake. So in my dream, after I already kicked this dude out, I come home one day and I see Echo sitting out the bedroom door. He's sitting outside the bedroom door and he's kind of growling and he's looking in the bedroom, and the bedroom door is closed. And I always leave the bedroom door open. The bedroom door is closed, and I come in. It's a long day of work. Come into the house. I'm like, what is in there, Echo? What's in there? And I open the door and the lights are off. Why are my lights off? I usually leave the lights on. I turn the lights on and there's a clown. There's a retarded clown standing there with a knife in his hand. And he goes, happy birthday. And I punch him in the face and take the knife from him and stab him in the stomach. And then he dies. And then I realize what I've just done. I just killed an autistic man. And he was set up by these evil rival podcaster, Democrat degenerates. And it's a prank gone wrong. That's the end of the second act. I don't have a conclusion to the story yet. What do you think? Would that be a #1 bestseller on the spooky stories list? On the thriller list? It's going to be a suspense thriller. It's going to be a suspense thriller. There's going to be a weird conclusion. I don't know because I woke up. When I stabbed the retard in my dream, I woke up. And I was like, I just killed a man. Oh, it was just a dream. Damn, I want to write a book about that. That was a great story. I gotta work on it. I gotta work out some kinks, figure it out, lay it out, write it, send it off, have it proofread, edit it, all that stuff, find a publisher, all the good stuff. But that's gonna be a #1 bestseller. Electric chair for killing the fully retarded. But what do I do after? Okay, so I kill him. What happens after that? I get the electric chair. That's anticlimactic. I think I go on like it's either you either go into like the court situation next and you try to get the other guys convicted of setting all this up, or it turns into an action story. And in the third act, I go rogue and I fly out to California to kill all of these people who got me to kill this poor autistic man. That's a good ending. That's an ending. And I get my vengeance. And then in the last moment, as I'm killing the last guy, I say, he was just a poor autistic boy. I don't deserve to live. And I take my own life. I don't know. I haven't worked out the ending yet. But that's my book that I'm going to write. All right. Freddie, what do you want? You got anything important to say? What do you think of my story? You can call on Discord. Ooh, good one. Throw a twist. Like the person who killed the retard woke up and realized they were the retard. And the one that wanted to die and leave. What? I don't understand that. Okay. Let's go ahead and get into the last little segment. Biblical stuff. Bible thumping time. We got spooky Bible stories. Spooky Bible stories. So, I got some. It's Halloween. Halloween's coming up. I like Halloween. Next week for the show, we will be doing we'll be talking about how Halloween is a Christian holiday. It is 100% origins based in Christianity. We'll be going through all that stuff. So for this week, we're just going to do more spooky stories. We might take a look at creepypasta from Reddit, scary stories, stuff like that. But first, I figured, let's see if there was any like spooky stories in the Bible. A lot of people will say the Bible talks about Jesus being a zombie and things like that. I disagree with that, but we will talk about the real biblical zombies and the biblical ghosts. So, what does the Bible say about ghosts? The idea of ghosts was added. Are there any ghosts in the Bible? So, I have some verses. So, Matthew 28:19 talks about the Holy Ghost. Mark 6:49. Mark 6:49 talks about when Jesus was walking on the water, and they said he looked like a ghost. Matthew 14:26. Where's the verse at? Ghost is used in a few ways in Scripture. Used interchangeably with spirit. After Jesus' crucifixion, the disciples saw him again and thought him to be a ghost. But Jesus assured them that he was not, showing them his hands and feet and eating some broiled fish as proof of his full resurrection. In the Gospel of Mark, we're told the disciples were overcome with fear after they saw Jesus walking on water, for they thought he was a ghost. That's Mark 6:49. But when they saw him walking on the lake, they thought he was a ghost. They cried out. And then in Matthew 14:26, when the disciples saw him, that's the same thing in Matthew. When they saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. It's a ghost, they said, and cried out in fear. The Hebrew word that they use there, or the Greek word that they use there, is phantasma. Phantasma can mean illusion, specter, spirit, or ghost. In Luke 24:37, the word used is pneuma, which translates to wind, breath, immaterial substance, an immaterial substance. All of these words are often interchangeably used with ghost. But that's not the ghost that I'm speaking of. What about Job? What about Job? Job saw a ghost. Let's read Job 4, and we'll talk about the ghost that Job saw. Job 4, Eliphaz speaks, the innocent prospered. Then Eliphaz the Temanite answered and said, if one ventures a word with you, will you be impatient? It's only 21 verses. Yet who can keep from speaking? Behold, you have instructed many, and you have strengthened the weak hands. Your words have upheld him who was stumbling, and you have made firm feeble knees. This is the ESV version, by the way. I like the ESV. But now it has come to you, and you are impatient. It touches you, and you are dismayed. Is not your fear of God your confidence and the integrity of your ways through hope? Remember, who that was innocent ever perished? Or where were the upright cut off? As I have seen, those who plow iniquity and sow troubles reap the same. By the breath of God they perish, and by the blast of his anger they are consumed. The roar of the lion, the voice of the fierce lion, the teeth of the young lions are broken. The strong lion perishes for lack of prey, and the cubs of the lioness are scattered. Now a word has brought to me stealthily, my ear received the whisper of it, amid thoughts from visions of the night, when deep sleep falls on men. Dread came upon me, and trembling which made all my bones shake. A spirit glided past my face, the hair of my flesh stood up. It stood still, but I could not discern its appearance. A form was before my eyes, there was silence, then I heard a voice. Can mortal men be in the right before God? Can a man be pure before the Maker? Even in his servants he put no trust, and his angels he charges with error. How much more those who dwell in the house of clay, whose foundation is in dust, who are crushed like moth. Between morning and evening they are beaten to pieces, they perish forever, without anyone regarding it. Is not their tent cord plucked up within them? Do they not die, and that without wisdom? So he said a spirit glided past his face. But this was in a dream. Job was seeing it in a dream. But here's an interesting thought. Are ghosts demons? Some of what we might interpret as ghosts are actually demons. The Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians 11:14-15 describes how Satan sometimes masquerades as an angel of light. We know there are spiritual beings at work in the world. The Bible often depicts how angels visited people to bring them messages from God. That's Luke 1, it talks about that. Genesis 18. So we know there's angels and demons. I'm totally on board with that. But I think the Bible is pretty clear that Christians should not try to communicate with loved ones. You should let the dead bury the dead. Once they're dead, they're gone permanently. I think I have some verses about that, about what the Bible says about zombies. So let me see. Should Christians be worried about ghosts? While evil spirits, ghosts, or demons are fearful and upsetting, Christians don't need to worry about them, as 1 Peter 5:8 and Ephesians 6:11-12 advise. 1 Peter 5:8 says, "Be alert and sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour." So, is it ghosts or is it demons? Spirits? Who knows? The Bible does talk about them. But we have a biblical haunting in Mark 5:1-20. A legion of demons possessed a man and used the man to haunt a graveyard. There were no ghosts involved. It was a case of normal person being controlled by demons to terrorize the people of that area. So let's read Mark 5:1-20. How can I read the whole chapter? How do I read the whole chapter? I have to click like this? They came to the other side of the sea, to the county of the Gerasenes. And when Jesus had stepped out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit. He lived among the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain. So he was like a spirit. He was like a spectral being. He was like a phantasma. And he guarded the graves. Crazy. For he had often been bound with shackles and chains, but he wrenched the chains apart, and he broke the shackles in pieces. No one had the strength to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and on the mountains, he was always crying out and cutting himself with stones. And when he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and fell down before him. And crying out with a loud voice, he said, "What have you done with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you by God, do not torment me." For he was saying to him, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." And Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" He replied, "My name is Legion, for we are many." Dang, my name is Legion, we are many. He was possessed by multiple demons. You see that in a lot of the spooky exorcist movies. And he begged him earnestly not to send them out of the country. Now a great herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside, and they begged him, saying, "Send us the pigs, let us enter them." So he gave them permission, and the unclean spirits came out and entered the pigs, and the herd numbered about 2,000, rushed down the steep bank into the sea and drowned in the sea. Dang! So Jesus cast a legion of demons out of this man who was in the graveyard like a zombie. And he cast out over 2,000 demons from him into the pigs, and the pigs went and drowned themselves in the sea. The herdsmen fled and told it to the city and in the country. Eyewitnesses, multiple eyewitnesses accounts and stories, word of mouth, that's how history is told. And people came to see what had happened. And they came to Jesus and saw the demon-possessed man, the one who had the legion, sitting there clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. And those who had seen it described to them that what had happened to the demon-possessed man and to the pigs. And they began to beg Jesus to depart from the region. And as he was getting into the boat, the man who had been possessed with demons begged him that he might be with him. And he did not permit him, but said to him, "Go home to your friends and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you." And he went away and began to proclaim in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and everyone marveled. Dang. So we got a legion of demons in a graveyard. Spirit beings, angels, all that's talked about. We talked about the legion of demons. The demons only seek to kill, steal, and destroy. John 10:10. So we know there's demons, but I'm pretty sure the Bible is pretty clear that there are no ghosts. That once you die, you're dead. So is there zombies in the Bible? The answer is no. The Bible has no reference to corpses being reanimated and existing in a continuing state of decomposition. Zechariah 14:12 is often referenced as foretelling an impending zombie apocalypse. Zechariah 14:12 says, "And this shall be the plague with which the Lord will strike all the people that wage war against Jerusalem. Their flesh will rot while they are still standing on their feet. Their eyes will rot in their sockets, and their tongues will rot in their mouths." So that's crazy. Isaiah 14, the birth of a zombie apocalypse. In Ezekiel 38 and 39, the Shining One becomes incarnate as Gog of Magog, monstrous but real apocalyptic zombie. So Isaiah 14, a text about the infamous fall of the netherworld of a proud celestial being, has played a key role in the history of biblical understanding. In particular, the netherworld eschatology shaped Israelite end-time beliefs, or apocalyptic eschatology. In Israel 14, before readers' eyes, a transcendent archetype, the ill-fated Shining One, materializes on earth as a historic figure, King Sargon II of Assyria. Later, the idea of incarnation of the Shining One as an earthly entity evolves as a key catalyst of a radical new religious imagination. So, Isaiah 14. Let's look at that. I'm going to pull it up online. I have the Bible right here, but IAH 14. The Lord will have compassion on Jacob. Once again, he will choose Israel and will settle them in their own land. Foreigners will join them and unite with the descendants of Jacob. Nations will take them and bring them to their own place, and Israel will take possession of the nations and make them male and female servants in the Lord's land, and will captivate and will make captives of their captors, rule over their oppressors. On the day the Lord gives relief from your suffering and turmoil from the harsh labor forced on you, you will take up his taunt against the king of Babylon. This is long. Where is it about? Prophecy against the Philistines, footnotes. I will rise up against them. I will wipe out Babylon's name, survivors. As I plan to crush the Assyrian in my land. On my mountains I will trample him down. His yoke will be taken from my people and his burden removed from their shoulders. So, kind of a prophecy. Not necessarily a zombie story, but a prophecy maybe of end times. Are there zombies? The question of zombies in the Bible is usually posed as an incredulous response to stories of resurrection, whether it be Elijah or Lazarus or Jesus. Elijah in 1 Kings 17 through 24. Lazarus is in John 11. Or Jesus' resurrection. A lot of atheists will say, I don't believe in zombie Jesus. But are there actual zombie stories in the Bible? Not resurrections, but reincarnations of demons in bodies, or people coming back from the dead as mindless zombies. The widow's son Lazarus, the boy who fell asleep, Acts 20. He was given a new glorified. Jesus' body was not reanimated. He was given a new glorified body, which aside from the scars on his hands, feet, and side, was so much better than his old closest friends didn't recognize him. That isn't to say the Bible never mentions zombies. There is one instance that might be interpreted as a person dying and being reanimated by demonic forces. It's that of the Antichrist. Midway through the tribulation, the Antichrist will receive a mortal head wound which will be healed. And this is in Revelation 13, 3, 12, and 14. So here's my crazy theory, guys. You know, I've said Elon Musk, potential Antichrist. Popular guy, richest man in the world. doing a modern day Tower of Babel, playing God with Neuralink and transhumanism and AI and space travel, all this crazy stuff. Well, here's a crazy theory for you. And if this word, I'm not a prophet, so I'm not predicting the future. You see, I have a crazy imagination, right? So let's just say there's been instances in the past of doctors who were working on cures for diseases that they themselves were suffering from, right? Ailments that they had. And they were working on the cure, and they were willing to do anything to find the cure because it would save their life. What if Elon has some sort of degenerative brain disease or some sort of head trauma that would cause it, it's fatal. It's going to cause him to die. And the reason he wants to do Neuralink to cure blindness and cure paralysis, what else could it cure? Could it possibly cure some degenerative neural condition that he might have? And maybe he's already chipped himself up. He's willing to bypass the human testing phase. He's willing to try it on himself. And he puts this chip into his head. And he has a mortal head wound. But he puts the chip in his head. And now he's saved from the mortal head wound. And he basically becomes immortal. If that happens, Elon would very likely be the Antichrist. Because as we see in Revelation 13:3, that's exactly what happens to the Antichrist. One of its heads seemed to have a mortal wound. But its mortal wound was healed, and the whole earth marveled as they followed the beast. 13:3. 13:12. It exercises all the authority of the first beast in its presence and makes the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose mortal wound was healed. So that's the other beast, making the people worship the one who healed their head wound with a miracle of science, you could say. And by the signs that it is allowed to work in the presence of the beast, it deceives those who dwell on the earth, telling them to make an image for the beast that was wounded by the sword and yet lived. Dang. Could Elon be the Antichrist? Is Elon a zombie? Dang. So, the Bible's pretty definitive. There are no ghosts. When you're dead, you're dead. Don't try to contact your family member because you're not talking to your family member. Those seances, that stuff is real. Like, as Christians, we know, I'm not against astrology and seances and Ouija boards and trying to cast magical spells. I'm not against all those dark arts because I think that they're fake. I'm against them because I think they're very real and they're evil. You're not talking to your family member who died in the war and you want to learn about the war. You're talking to a demon and you're opening yourself up for these evil spirits. It's not ghosts. It's not zombies. It's demons being unleashed on the earth. It's Agartha opening up, and the giants and the dragons and the demons and the Nephilim, these things coming up and taking over the earth that I'm worried about. I'm not worried about ghosts and zombies. So that's my thoughts on the whole thing. Don't have seances. Don't be a stargazer looking for patterns in the sky. Don't be a numerologist looking for codes and sequences and series and hidden messages. That stuff's all real. But the reason you don't get into it is because it's evil and it opens up portals for demons. Don't worry about the ghosts. Don't worry about the zombies. We need to be worried about the demons. That's the true spookiness of Halloween. And that's the Bible thumping. Spooky story Bible thump. And that's with that, I'm going to end the YouTube recording. I'm going to say goodbye to the YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube in the future, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, share this video out, all the good stuff. Dreaded Conservative Show, Rumble, rumble.com/the Dreaded Conservative Show. Dreaded Conservative, Monday nights, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And go check that out if you're watching on YouTube. You can see it live, uncut on Rumble. But for now, I'm going to end the YouTube recording, say goodbye to you guys. And we're going to do maybe we'll do some Discording. Maybe we'll look at some Reddit creepypasta, scary ghost stories again, and just hang out with the chat for a little while. So later, YouTube.